Hey everybody, are we here? Are we live? Are we here? Are we live? Let's see. Let's see. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? I don't see myself yet. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. Oh yeah, it looks like we're live. Why don't I see my, oh, here we go. Okay, we're live. We're a little bit behind on YouTube. That's okay. Getting all kinds of notifications to know that we're live, which is cool. Let me shift over here for a second. People will start showing up soon because that's usually what happens. Let me get these. Up. Come on now. Mr. Laptop. Hey, Marcus, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Can you hear me okay? If you can hear me okay, let me know. Let me see if I can put your comment on the screen here. Oh yeah, we're live. We are live. Hold on, let me make this a little bit bigger. Let me get rid of this. Doing some screen sharing today. Going to see how this is going to, oops. Yes, we are live. Good to see you, Marcus. How are you? How do I get rid of that? Will that go off by itself at one point? There we go. Good to see you. Can you hear me okay? Let me know if you can hear me okay. You should be able to hear me okay. If everything is working the way it's supposed to be working, you should be able to hear me. Let me see if what the other thing looks like. Do we have a stream happening here? Yeah, we should have a stream happening here. People will start showing up, Marcus. Another unscheduled live stream. I got some cool stuff to tell you guys about. So I figured I'd come on here for a bit and talk to you. Just because all good sounds fantastic. Looks good too, Marcus. Lighting look okay. Everything look good. Let me know, buddy. I'm on YouTube, it says. Getting notifications. All right. Yes. That's cool. Sound is great. Awesome. Awesome. You know, oddly enough, I had some issues with the sound before we went live. I didn't know if we were going to be able to go live. My lav wasn't working for a minute or two there. I don't know exactly why. To be honest. There's so much stuff in here that you got to turn on and sync up and get ready to go that, you know, there's like 15 things you got to check before you can actually go live or record anything. It's crazy. Hey, Bobby Booth, what's up, brother? Good to see you. How are you? Hope you're doing okay. Ooh, that looks big. Let me, I guess it doesn't matter if it's, oh man, come on. I hate this little mouse on my laptop. Good to see him, Robert. Hope all's well with you and your family. We'll let people start strolling in. I got a bunch of stuff going on here, man. Bunch of stuff. It's been a couple of weeks since we did the last live stream. And again, these impromptus where we don't extra what was I going to say? I forgot what I was saying. I read Marcus's email. Yes, the lighting looks great, Marcus says. Awesome. You got extra light on your left. Not on purpose. Yeah, you know, I shouldn't say that. Yes, I do have some extra, well, yeah, I had some extra lights turned on this time. What I realized was when I watched back the last live stream, and one of the things that I don't like, well, I'm using when I'm live streaming, all the videos going through my Blackmagic ATM video switcher, and the highest resolution that you can live stream at is 1080p, which is typically okay. When I'm live streaming over on my In The Box rig and I'm not using the video switcher, and the only reason why I'm using the video switcher is because we have 8 cameras going on here. I'll show you some in a minute. I got some other things to show you. When I'm doing my live stream, all of my In The Box rig at home recording made easy, I can live stream at 4K. And when you live stream at 4K, things look brighter, they look more sharp. Last couple of weeks ago, when we live streamed and I watched it back, I realized it looked a little dark. Now, that's because, I think it's because you're only streaming in 1080 and you need more lighting. So anyway, I turned on some extra lights in the room to make it a little bit brighter this time. So I'm just, you know, again, just, you know, oh, and oddly enough, for people who care, when I record all of the Mixing Music analog content, like the videos that you see on YouTube, all of that is being recorded in that same Blackmagic video switcher. It records all the video files, and then I edit them in DaVinci Resolve. But they record at 4K, but you only can stream at 1080p, right? So the video quality, I noticed in the stream, although several people told me, Dave, it looks just fine, it's just a live stream. But it doesn't look as good, even this video right now, my guess is, doesn't look as good, I'll know later, as the videos that I record, because it's only streaming in 1080p. Because Blackmagic Designs does not make a switcher yet that streams in 4K. I'll bet you by the end of this year they come out with one, and then I'm buying it. But for now, it's okay. So all that really means is, when I'm live streaming, I got to make sure there's some extra lighting in the room because it is a little bit lower resolution. So I hope it looks okay. It looks better. It looks okay on my monitor, but you never know. And as long as it looks and sounds okay, the hell with it. I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can, guys, but you guys are cool with it. That's good. So yeah, so we'll see how many people show up tonight, and then maybe people watch it on the replay. In the future, I'll schedule these out maybe a week or so in advance so you guys know when they're coming. Right now, I am so inundated with video recording and all kinds of stuff going on here, mixing and everything else, that I don't know when I could always do these. Not to mention, it seems like over the last few weeks, I'm just inundated with private consulting. My Zoom, I do Zoom consulting calls by the hour with students, and I'm doing tons of those now. And so I'm just so busy. I never know when I can squeeze one of these in. But once I get through some of the videos that I'm recording now for drums and stuff, that'll free up some time in my schedule. And then I can schedule these out a little bit more and pre-plan them a little more, and have some more really focused topics of what we're going to do, whether it's doing some mixing stuff, whether it's doing recording stuff, whatever. And it'll be more than just a simple hangout that's kind of unscheduled and I just kind of jump on here. So we're moving closer to a more regular, organized live stream. So that's what we're going to kind of do. So hopefully some people will show up tonight. You guys will get something out of this, and I'll just, in a few minutes, once people start rolling in, we'll get into some of the topics I want to talk about. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know. There are some a new video that came out yesterday. No, today's Sunday, right? Friday, for the Audioscape 260 VU compressor. If you have not seen that yet, go check that out. That's a pretty awesome compressor, man. I like it a lot. We demonstrated it on drums, on piano, and on vocals. It's not my favorite on drum bus. It's okay. It's not my favorite. We talked about that in the last live stream. A couple of people asked me about, hey, can you do it on the drum bus? And at that point, I hadn't done that compressor on a drum bus. It's not my favorite on drum bus. I really like it on vocals. And I really liked it on grand piano as well. And I've also used it on acoustic guitar. And I really liked it on acoustic. But drums, not my favorite. Not my favorite. It's good, but it's not the one I would reach for first, just because. So let's see, we got a bunch of people here, it looks like. Not too many people in the chat hanging, but we got a bunch of people. Let's see. Oops. Come on, what's going on with my little mousey here? Oh, come on, mousey. There we go. Is there a laser? What is that laser on your console? Why is my, come on, mouse, get with it, get with it. Laser on my console. There's no laser. Where do you see a laser? A laser? Or did you mean to say something else and not laser? I don't have a laser on the console. There isn't one. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Hey, Jimmy Farmer, how you doing, my bud? Hope you're doing well, buddy. I don't have a laser on the console. What are you talking about, Marcus? Not sure what you're talking about. Oops. The only thing I have on here is the Stream Deck, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. Oh, this, the Workhorse. Why'd you call it a laser? What's a laser? You must have meant something else. Oh, we're going to get to this, the Workhorse thing. Yeah, we're going to talk about the new gear. I'm glad you spotted it because I don't want to forget. Although I wrote myself a list. Yeah, I got that. I'm going to talk about that in a bit once we get some more people showing up. Jimmy Farmer says he is in his new, will this replace that Yeah, there it goes. You're in your basement testing out some new drum mics. Talk about drum mics, Jimmy. I'm doing some drum recording here myself. It's another thing I wanted to talk about. So yeah, so one of the things I'm doing is I'm in this week coming up, but I've already did a video on Friday into yesterday, is I'm doing some of these drum recording courses that are going to end up on both YouTube channels. Right now they're on Home Recording Made Easy, the first one. Going to do some microphones, different microphone drum testing, and then we're going to record on the SSL, and that'll end up on this channel. Although my guess is they're both going to end up on both channels. But anyway, so I've been doing that, and I've been working with this, the first video I did, and you can see here, I got cameras over here. So here's the drum set, here's the camera. So you can see I have a camera set up on the drum kit, already filming. Got an overhead cam as well for that. See that? And so the first video I did is I did this, the Slate Digital, the virtual microphone system, the ML1, that large diaphragm condenser microphone. I did that one first. That was the first video. Record the drum kit with one microphone, and then we brought it into Studio One, and we were playing with all the different mic models. I got to tell you, man, I'm thoroughly impressed with that particular microphone. I was blown away by that thing, especially when you start using some of the mic models, because I have a few of their mic. It comes with some virtual mic packs, right? And then I bought a couple when I bought the microphone, because I got the microphone on Black Friday last year, and it was on sale like $300 off. I got the microphone from Sweetwater for like, I think it was $450. It's usually $800. And then it came with 2 expansion packs for free, which I thought was cool. So I got a bunch of mics. Anyway, I was editing that video this morning, and I was blown away by the sound of that microphone, especially when you start swapping out the mic models. So that's really cool. That mic's really cool. I'm way more impressed than I thought I was going to be. And then the next set of videos, once I get through, I'm going to do some Roswell microphones. I have some other microphones we're going to do. But then I also have the Slate Digital ML2, which is the small little, small diaphragm condenser mic. And it also has a little switch on it to switch it from a condenser mic to a dynamic mic. It flips the capsule somehow. So you can mic up the entire drum kit. And I got 7 of those microphones. So I'm going to be able to mic kick, snare, top and bottom, toms, overheads, rooms, the whole thing, and then be able to record the drums and then bring it into Studio One and put all the mic models on it to see how that sounds. So I'm really excited about that. That should be really cool. So if anyone's ever thought about that Slate Digital Virtual Microphone System, the VMS, it's actually, at least my early testing, it's actually really cool. Way better than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why. I just thought it's not really going to sound all that great. It actually sounds really, really great. And for the price, you really can't beat it. Hey, Eduardo, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. So yeah, that, you know, if you're in the market for something like that, that's really cool. You know, and you can basically have an entire mic locker for, I don't know, $1,500. If you bought the ML1, even at full price is $800, and each one of those ML2s, I think, is only $150. So hell, for like $2,000, you have microphones for everything, So yeah, there'll be more videos coming on that, Jim. And then yeah, then I'm going to be doing the Roswell mics. I got a bunch of Roswell mics I'm going to do. And then I also have, PreSonus sent me their drum mic pack, their budget 7 or 8 piece drum microphone pack. That'll be interesting to try out as well, so we can kind of compare them all. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing. So there'll be some drum videos coming. They're coming. They're already started to record them. So I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. Let's see. Eduardo says 500 series. I have the 6 slot. Still filling it with gear. Yeah, we got some 500 stuff. So what I got going on, we could go, well, first of all, upcoming videos, because some of you have, in the comments of the last couple of videos, have asked me about certain pieces of gear, and a few of you emailed me. So let me just tell you what's already been filmed, what has already been scheduled on YouTube, and what is coming up on this channel for gear review. Okay, so let me I got the list right here. So we did the 260 VU, that was just done, right? That was where are we here? That was Friday. Oh, let me scroll up here, okay? Next week, next Friday, we have another episode of Inside the Mix with Laney and the Wildfire, the song Dime that I was playing a couple of weeks ago. That mix has been done. They signed it off. I did an Inside the Mix episode so you could see all of that. That comes up next week. Then the following week, I got a cool video talking about the SSL Fusion, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight. Then we got a couple of Q&A videos coming, and then we got a video on the SPL Big. I did a video for that. That thing's killer, man. That SPL Big, that thing's out of sight. Video's already done for that, coming in April. Then there is the video on the Empress EQ. You guys asked me about that a couple weeks ago. Remember I told you it's going to be done? It's done. It's done. It's scheduled. It's in April. You'll see it in April. Then I did a video on the Trident 80Bs. Those are done. Those are coming up, I think, at the end of April, beginning of May. That video's already done. And then what else? And then the Neve 542s. Those are done as well. I think those are sometime mid-May. So a lot of the gear that there weren't videos for already, I've tried to finish up a lot of those demos for you guys and reviews. The only ones I have not done yet are the Audioscape VA3A, the 500 series VA3A. That I haven't done yet. I think that's it. What else do I have to do? Oh, and I didn't do anything on the distressors because lots of people have done distressors, but we'll do them because I have them and they're in the rack. And I think that's it. I think those are the only two videos that for the current gear that haven't been done yet. So those are coming. Those are coming up very, very soon. So talking about, what were we talking about? New gear, right? 500 series. Yeah. So one of the things was a couple of things. So, what can I tell you about this? Can I tell you about this? I could tell you about part of it. So, you know I'm a Wes Audio fan, right? I have the Wes Audio NG bus compressor. I have the Wes Audio Dione compressor, which is the 500 series VCA SSL kind of on steroids. I have the Wes Audio RIA, which is the Very-Mu compressor in 500 series. That's another great compressor, by the way. That thing's killer, man, that RIA. So I have that, and both of my 500 series racks are Wes Audio. Well, I met with them last week. They're going to send me a couple of their EQs to do some demos on. So we're going to take a look at some of their EQs. Those are coming soon, which means I needed to free up some 500 spaces because each one of those EQs, I believe, is a double wide, and they're sending me 2 of them. So I needed 4 spaces, and I don't have any space left. So in one of the racks, I have the AMS Neve reverb. Oh, that's another thing I didn't do a review on. I have to do that one too. And the Neve AMS is a triple wide. It actually takes up 3 spots in the rack, even though it only uses 2 of the slots, but the one in the middle, it just covers it. It doesn't use it. So it takes up 3 spaces, which is where one of those Wes Audio EQs are going to come in, and I'm going to plug that in there. So I wanted to move that Neve AMS because it's a triple slot. So I went out and I got this. You guys just saw this. So I got this little desktop. You guys seen this before, right? This is the radial. This is the little, what do they call this? The workhorse called the Cube. It's a 3 slot. It'll fit that Neve AMS perfectly. It's got this little carry handle, and I'm just going to sit it on top of the rack there. So I'm going to put that into this thing here. And that will free up 3 spaces inside of my current 500 series rack. So that's the first thing I got to do. Let me put this up here actually. So it's actually going to sit probably right there. That's probably where it's going to go. Right on top of the rack, run the cables down, plug it into the patch bay, done. Then the next piece of gear I got is I did a trade. Me and David S.J., my buddy, we did a trade. So he was going to sell his 160 DBX 160, the stock unit. We did a video where we compared the stock unit, his stock unit, to my modded units by Revive Audio. He was going to get rid of this. So I was going to sell my Avitone speakers, my Mixcube speakers, because I don't need them now that I have the Trinoff. If you've seen the last Trinoff video, you'll know why. And so I was going to sell those. He was going to sell this. They're about equal in value. He wanted the Avitones. I wanted his DBX, so we just traded. So Dave and I did a trade. So he gave me the DBX. I gave him the speakers. And so now I got to make another slot. I have another slot open in the rack for the DBX. I'll have 3 of them now because they're just really cool. And I'm using them more and more. I really like them and they're super affordable. So we got that gear coming in as well. Let's see. Any more questions here? Okay. So that's the 2 new pieces of gear that are coming in. And there's something else that might be coming very soon too, but I can't really talk about it yet because it hasn't been released. But, and I can't tell you who it's from. But there is something else coming here, which I'm hoping is going to be killer. It sounds killer, but I can't say nothing yet. Yeah, within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I should be able to talk about it more and may actually have one in my grubby little hands, I'm hoping. So that'll be cool. So I got to free up some space. So what's probably going to happen in the near future is I'm probably going to reorganize the gear in the racks again, because of other things that are coming in. Some things are leaving. I sold my my Line 6, my Echo units, those delay units. I might have told you that last time. So I got some open space. So I might be rejiggering things in the rack. So there might be another one of those marathon live streams if Dave comes up, where we're going to probably we are going to rewire the racks and rearrange things a little bit. And make things, streamline things even a little bit more. So that's going to happen, I don't know when, probably in a month or so. I'm not in a big rush to do it, but it is going to get done once I get some time where I can actually do it, because it's going to be an all-day project without a shadow of a doubt. It's going to be crazy. But we're going to do that. So a couple of pieces of gear, some gear coming in. And yeah, and so that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have some more gear reviews and some more, comparisons and those kinds of things. So that'll be really good. No, Marcus, it's not the GainLab Audio Bishop. I don't know what that is, but no, it's not that. I can't really say what it is because it's not released and I'm under NDA, so I really can't say what it is. Just know that it's cool as hell. That's all I can tell you, and it'll come out soon. It'll come out soon. So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot of fun. And the rack rebuild will probably be a lot of fun as well. Well, probably won't be a lot of fun, but it's a necessity. I have to get it done. And so, yeah. And so one thing also that I did, a lot of you guys responded to, is I put a poll up in the YouTube user community there asking about, what videos you want to see. And surprisingly, I think like almost 60% of you said you wanted to see more mixing demonstration stuff, which is cool. So we're going to do that as well. I'm right between projects now. I got a session that I just imported up here. It's nothing. I just imported the files and just, color coded and rearranged them. I haven't edited. I haven't done anything. And this is it's a pop tune by one of my students, actually, Richard Cortu, or Cortru. Not sure how you pronounce his name. He has a production of a pop tune with a female vocalist, which is really cool. And once I get it organized and get everything up here, actually, you can actually see the session is camera 5, right? So here's the session here in Studio One. I could give you a few seconds of the song here. You may have to turn up the speakers because nothing's been done. I just imported it, but this is kind of what the song I'm going to be working on next. It'll eventually be an Inside the Mix episode, as well as what we'll do for some demonstration stuff on some gear. So here.
Nasty
So that's one of the songs we're going to be working on next. It's actually, just noticed, it's one of the few sessions I get where actually when you put everything at 0, we're not clipping the master fader. He's actually recorded it pretty darn conservatively, which is why the volume's a little low. But that's the next track to be working on. And as I'm working on that, there'll be some videos. I'll do some demonstration stuff as you guys want. Maybe we'll pull it up in a live stream and work on it together. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with this one, but this is the next tune on deck. So we're going to do some content around it. Like I said, maybe some live stream stuff. I don't know. So that'll be cool. So let's see. What do I think of the Amari from Antelope? I don't know of it. I've heard of it, but I have no experience with it. So I can't help you with that one. I'm sorry. Man Network says, do you build your gear racks? I see various units, sizes back there. Sorry if you've answered this many times before. Oh, no, that's okay, man. No, I don't. These I purchased. There are 3 levels here. It's all from the same company. I've purchased them over time. And honestly, what the hell is the name of the company? They have a store on Reverb is where I bought them. They're out in New Hampshire. Sanctus Sound. If you go on the channel, Man Networking, you look at the first video that was on this channel, the first one, I actually show you the actual website and stuff of where I bought them. I want to say it's Santus Sound. He's out of New Hampshire. He builds all custom racks. So there's 2, I think these are 16 spaces. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 space racks that I've had over the years in different rigs, and I just stack them on top of each other. He's a really good, you know, cabinet maker, so he makes really good quality products, and he's pretty affordable. Actually, he's super affordable, because when I first started buying racks, I was looking at like Sweetwater and stuff, and if you buy stuff from like Soundcraft or Argosy, they're 4 times the cost of this. And this is like real wood. It's not like, you know, particle board with a laminate. It's real wood. And it's pretty good. So, yeah, so if you check the very first video on the channel, I actually show you the actual name of the rack and the website and all of that. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. So yeah, hopefully that'll help you. Let's see, David wants to know, so when are you going to talk about the waves thing? I don't even know what you're talking about. Tell me what you're talking about. I've heard some rumblings about something, but I'm not familiar with the waves thing. I use their plugins, but I don't really follow them that closely, so I don't know what that is. But if you could tell us what it is, I'll tell you if I've heard of it. Yeah, man, go check it out after the stream, and you'll see it there. He's a good guy. And like I said, he's right out of New Hampshire, which is only a couple hours away from me. So, even the shipping was pretty reasonable, and he packs stuff really well, ships everything UPS, everything came without a mark on it. So Braxel says, hello. Hey, Braxel, how are you? And so, yeah. So those racks are pretty cool. And they're on, the bottom ones are on casters, so you can move them around. Oh, Waves went subscription only? Really? What if you already own their plugins? If you already own them, right? I didn't even know that. Is that true? No kidding. I did not know. So can you not use their plugins if you've already purchased them and you've owned them this whole time? Or is it going forward? I mean, that doesn't surprise me, to be honest. I've said this before on Home Recording Made Easy, not on this channel, because this channel we don't talk about plugins as much, but I've said this before. I said this a couple of years ago. Everybody's going to be subscription based. It's only a matter of time. You know, everyone's going subscription model. That's just the way it's going to be. Some companies will probably allow you to have a subscription or a perpetual license, but I would be willing to bet that within another couple of years, every single company that's not already on, it's going to be subscription. I just think it's the way, it's going to go. And I know some people really hate that. And at first, I honestly, that was my opinion. I didn't like it. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of like it. For a couple of reasons. One, when you have subscription stuff, here's the thing about Waves that sucks, at least in the past, is that, you know, every so often you had to pay for all your upgrades, because if you had new operating systems, new software, not all the versions would work with all the new versions of software. So, you know, I've couple of times in the last 5-10 years, I've had to pay $250 to upgrade all my Waves plugins because I use them. I do use them. And when I'm working in the box and I'm doing all my courses and stuff, I use them. So when you go to subscription-based, I believe all that crap goes away because now all the updates are free. You have the latest stuff. All the support is there. I think. I don't know if that's the way Waves is going to do it, but that's typical how it happens. But you're right. You don't own the license, and if you stop paying for your subscription, you lose out. And that's the part people get a little pissy about. And I totally get that. I totally understand that. But I think that's just the way everybody's going to go. I just wonder if Marcus says, yeah, as of March 26th. Hey, that's today. No shit. Okay, so yeah, I just wonder if you already own their plugins and you've already bought them, you should be able to use them, right? I mean, I can't imagine they're going to say, well, now you can't use them, you got to pay for subscription. That I can't believe. If that's the case, well, then I would just dump their stuff altogether and I wouldn't use them and I would boycott them. And here's the other thing too, and again, I get asked this a lot at Home Recording Made Easy, a lot about plugins, you know. And again, I just did a video the other day about the new Kit plugin, the new 1073, and then everyone wants to compare. Well, does this plugin sound as good as the Waves one? Does it sound as good as the Universal Audio one? Does it sound as good as the Plugin Alliance one? I mean, they all sound pretty much the same. They're not that much different from each other. So I tell all my students over there, you know, the beginners that are getting out of the stock plugins, I tell them, this is what you do. You want, well, I'm going to save you a bunch of money. Pick one plugin pack from someone. I don't care if it's Plugin Alliance, now it's Waves. I don't care if it's Universal Audio. I don't care if it's Slate Digital. I don't care who it is. Pick one company where they make all the variety of plugins that you want, and all the main ones do, and that's all you need. You don't need all these plugins. You don't need 15 1176s by 5 different companies. You just don't need it. You don't need it. They all sound the same. They really, truly do. Maybe some real subtle differences because every piece of hardware is going to sound different, right? So if they modeled different hardware, it may sound a little different. They all sound the same. So for me, if I didn't teach for a living, and if I didn't need all those plugins for all my different students, I would have one plugin pack. And the one that I would choose still, I always say this, is the Slate Digital Everything pack. And I own that. I would just buy that and that would be it. I wouldn't need Waves. I wouldn't need FabFilter, Plugin Alliance, Acoustic, Universal Audio. They can all, if I was not in the business that I'm in, all those plugins would be deleted. I would use the Slate stuff and that's all I would need. That's it. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Waves. I did not hear that. I can't believe I didn't hear that. So thank you for the info. I'll have to check that out and see if all my plugins work that I purchased. I got to imagine they would. Okay, Brack still wants to, oh, why is that one small? See, that's kind of weird. That one came up small. Okay. Dave, I need your advice. If you had to choose Cubase 12 Pro or Studio One Pro 6, which would you take? Oh, Studio One. Without even hesitation. Not that Cubase 12 Pro is not great. I have it. Prior to Studio One, I used to use Cubase. They're very similar in workflow. But I like Studio One only because I've been using it, I don't know, 12 years now? I don't know, at least 10 years. And I'm telling you, and this is just, again, I know other people will have different experiences, but I'm only telling you my experience. I've had that Studio One on 5 different Mac computers. Again, I'm a Mac guy. Everything from the 2009 Mac Pro to Mac Minis to different iMacs to different, now it's in a Mac Studio, M1 chips, Intel chips. I could count on one hand the amount of times that program has ever crashed on me. It's the most stable DAW I've ever used. I know some people would disagree with that, or maybe their experience are different. But that's for me. And also, again, I'm not sure, Braxel, where you are as far as, you know, knowing the program or whatnot. But again, especially if you're new to a DAW or new to digital recording or whatever, you're new to the digital thing, it's the most intuitive DAW to use, I think. So I would tell people Studio One every single time. And again, if you said Studio One wasn't available, what would be the next DAW I would choose? It would be Cubase. Because Steinberg does make a good product. But they don't have the support that Studio One has. They don't have the amount of user communities that Studio One has. So I think if you're looking for support in a user community as well, if that's important to you, Studio One is also, you know, has more resources, I think. So that's what I would tell you. Man says you get to keep your old plugins. Okay, good, because I own them all already for the Wave stuff. I own them all. So I guess I won't have to go subscription. So that's great. But they're all going to do that, man. They're all going to do that. Just like Netflix, Hulu, HBO. You know, people said nobody would ever pay for subscription TV. I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that. Nobody's going to pay for that, they said. Every single one here tonight. You probably have at least 3 of those streaming services on your iPads. I know I do. I just think it's the way it's going to go. You get to keep your old plugins. That's great. But David says you get to keep them, but the versions you have, but there's no updates. Okay, Dave, that makes sense then. You know, but for me, the only time I've ever updated Waves plugins was when it didn't work with the operating system anymore. And it took a few versions of that to happen. You know, in other words, I didn't have to go from 8 to 9 to 10 to 12, 11, 12, 13, 14. I went from 8 to 12. I didn't have to do 9, 10, 11 because it always worked with my computer. As soon as there was an incompatibility there, that was a problem. And so I'm on version 14 right now of all of my Waves plugins. So I got to think I'll be okay for a while. But again, if I had to get to the point where I had to pay for them or they didn't work anymore, I probably would just stop using their stuff. Because like I said, you don't, I have all the main manufacturers. So I don't know that I would. How much is the monthly membership, by the way, David? Do you know? I'm sure you know. You know, how much is it? What's it, like $20 a month or something? Marcus says, they say the updates are included in any software included in your subscription. Yeah, that's usually how it works. And that's one of the benefits to a subscription. But you don't own them. And I get what people are saying. If I stop paying for them, all my old sessions that have those plugins in there, they won't work anymore. That's right. That's right. And that does suck. I hear you. I can understand why people feel that way. I can understand why you feel that way. That's kind of a pain. Let's see. Shazam. Hey, Shazam. How are you, my friend? You, sir, have been a godsend to me in Studio One of my Studio Live 32. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Shazam. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad I'm able to help you in some way. That's awesome. That's awesome. David says you pay $250 a year. So that's what, $20 a month? A little less than 20 a month, right? I think that math is right. That's about what everybody else is. Or everyone's between 15 and 20, right? Somewhere in there. Or you could pay $250 a year and you can get, I guess if you buy the annual membership, it will be cheaper, right? That's usually what happens. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends how much you really like your Waves plugins. How much do you really like them? They make some cool stuff that nobody else makes, like a lot of the Abbey Road stuff, if you're into the Abbey Road stuff, which I am. The rest of their stuff, I could take it or leave it. The Shep 73, the CLA stuff, I have it. I wouldn't care about that. The only ones that I would really care about, because they do sound a lot different than any other plugins that I own, would be the Abbey Road. But, you know, yeah, I get it, though. I get it. Man says, I'm shooting for 15 analog 1176s. Really? Oh, you mean plugins. Or you want, well, here's the thing. That's, you're probably joking, but yeah, this is one of the beauties about working with hardware, man. Because again, you're limited. Unless you have unlimited amount of money and unlimited amount of space, there's only so much hardware you can buy. At least there's only so much hardware I can buy. Like I said, I'm limited to those 2 racks because I don't have any room for another rack. So if a new piece of gear comes in, something's got to go because I don't need all that gear. I don't even use all that gear in every single mix. Now, I use it all depending on what I want, right? I have different flavors of a lot of things, but I don't use all that gear. So one of the good things about having hardware is a lot of downsides. And one of the good things is you're limited. You get the gear that works, you get the stuff that you like the way it sounds, and it works for your workflow and your tastes, and that's it. You don't need to worry about all plugins and subscriptions and all that crap. So that's the advantage of hardware. Let's see, RB Sounds. As long as you don't upgrade your OS to the newer version, you can still use them. Okay, cool. That's cool. Uh-oh. King says, Waves are liars. They are only advertising the lowest tier of the subscription. Oh, again, I have to look into that, King. You guys are filling me in tonight. I don't really know anything about it. I don't know what the deal is there. If they have a higher tier of subscription, who knows? But again, if you don't like the company, don't buy the stuff. Like I keep saying, and I'm sure you know this, King, is that, again, Waves, Slate Digital, Universal Audio. Some people like the Acoustica stuff. I'm not a fan of it, but people like that. Plug-in Alliance, Overloud, IK Multimedia. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They're all the same. Kit plugins. They're all the same. Pretty much. Now, there's some specialty plugins in those packs that are maybe a tool or a certain utility plugin that you may really need or like. But as far as EQs, compressors, channel strips, for the most part, they're all the same. One doesn't really sound that much better than the other. They all sound a little different. They're all good. None of them are crap. You know, they're all good. So if you don't like Waves, pick another one. And you won't, I mean, really. But if you spent a lot of money investing in, let's say, your Waves plugins, and now, they will go subscription and you can't update and all that. Again, I can understand that's frustrating. I get it. But, I don't know. I'll have to check more into what you're saying there, King, because I'll have to check the packages and stuff and see, are they being a little dishonest there? Maybe they are. You might be right, man. Yep, Kaiser, that's what the word on the street is. I'm glad I got on here tonight. You guys educated me because I didn't know. Dave, what about the same issue with Dolby Atmos and Cubase 12? Studio One does not. I know people are into this Dolby Atmos. I'm not convinced. Yes, there's high-end studios, the Blackbirds of the world, and the big studios are going this way for certain things. I don't know too many people that own home studios that need to worry about Dolby Atmos. I don't. Or are you going to make the investment in the setup to be able to play that stuff back, or more importantly, produce music and mix music in that way? Here's the thing. If Dolby Atmos continues to be part of the game, and if that's going to stick, I don't know, is it really going to stick? I remember when they talked about, what was it? Quad or Quadrophenia. I mean, I remember there's been other things in the past that never really stuck. Is this really going to stick? Maybe it will. But when it gets to the point where it's really, really relevant in more than just the high-end big studios, for the very few artists that put stuff out in that format, Studio One will be compatible. You can guarantee maybe it'll be Studio One 7. If it's really going to be that. I wouldn't worry about that. I don't even think about Dolby, because I'm not set up to work in that. And that's a huge investment, man. That's a massive investment. And I'm just not convinced of it yet. But I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. But I know that's the new buzzword. That's the new thing on the street. Everybody's into Dolby and, but who's going to have how many consumers are going to have the playback systems to be able to really listen to that stuff in that format? I don't know. I think we're a ways off from that. So I'm not really sure why anyone in their home studio would be worried about, you know, writing or producing music and that's going to be compatible with Dolby Atmos. Maybe there's a, you know, maybe there's a specific case for you, but I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. Shazam says the Studio One has been amazing for him. Cool, man. Yeah, I think it's the best DAW on the market. I do. I really mean that. I mean, you know, I have all of them. I have Cubase. I have Luna. I have Logic. I have Studio One. Well, I don't have a perpetual license, but a couple of times a year I have to rent Pro Tools for a session for a month because I'll get a client that'll send me a Pro Tools session. I'll have to extract files. But I worked in Pro Tools for lots of years. So that's 6 of them. You know, I could choose any one, and I work in Studio One because it's the most stable. I'm the most familiar with it at this point. And so it just, that's what I recommend to people. Let's see, Marcus. You have Cubase 12 Pro, but it depends on your workflow. For Atmos, you should look at Nuendo. Yeah, you have Cubase Pro 12? Cool. And if you like it, here's the other thing too. I'll say this. You guys know this, but again, for people on the replay that watch, just like with the plugins, these DAWs are all the same. They're all the same. They all sound the same. Anyone that tells you one sounds different doesn't know what they're talking about. They're all ones and zeros, right? It's all about workflow. So you can produce the same quality of music and production value in Cubase as you can in Studio One, as you can in Pro Tools, as you can in Logic, as you can in Reaper, right? As you can in Luna. You can. You absolutely can. It's just all a matter of what you're familiar with and what you like and what you're used to. And none of them are bad. None of them are bad. For me, Studio One's the most stable. Pro Tools was the least stable. But I haven't used Pro Tools in a long time, so it might have gotten better. I don't know. But they're all the same. So don't switch a DAW just because someone came out with a new feature or a bunch of YouTube's videos told you it's the best DAW on the planet and you need to switch. That's bull. That's bull. Don't waste your money. If you have a DAW you like and you're comfortable with, stick with it. That's why I'm on Studio One for over 10 years. There's a lot of, a lot of other DAWs out there, but I find one I like and I stick with it. And Cubase is a good DAW too. They're all really good. They are today. They're all really good. They don't sound any different. Braxel says, I've been messing around with the RMS button on the 260 VU, and I cannot tell if the imaging is different or is it just in your head. I know you answered my question, but I have you live now, please. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm really sorry. It was an oversight on my part. I did not talk about the RMS button on the 260 VU. I kind of skipped over it. It was in the bottom left-hand corner, and my eyes just went over it. But basically what that button does, according to Audioscape, because I wanted to get the official, what does that button do? Because some people thought it had something to do with a side chain, it had a high-pass filter or something. That's not what it does. They say in a very subtle way, it actually will shift the imaging a little bit. I pressed it in and out. I don't really hear that. It's probably super, 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 super subtle. And maybe depending on the material that you're using it on, you may hear a little bit of a shift in the imaging, but I didn't hear that. But that's what Audioscape says it does. So, after I, turned it on, turned it off, turned it on, turned it off, and I really didn't hear much of a difference, I just left it off. So, but I haven't experimented extensively with it on a whole different bunch of sources, only on some drums, vocals, and piano. Stuff that was already panned wide, stuff that was more narrow, and I really didn't hear any difference. So I don't know. So whatever it is, it's a subtle thing. But that's the official Audioscape response. Oh, David's talking about the Wave stuff. Oh, you have all the ones that you actually use from them. It's $25 a month or $250 annually. Okay. Okay. That's about, I think that's about average to what most of these subscriptions are, aren't they? I mean, I don't know. 25, I've always seen them between 17 and 25. I guess depends on the company. Raxel says that you like the plugin alliance deal where you get a subscription and you get to keep 10 plugins or so a year. Yeah, they have some kind of weird thing, but they're constantly changing their stuff, constantly changing those deals. And there's a few of their plugins I like that I have. and I have all their channel strips and all that stuff too, and they all sound really good. The plugin alliance stuff is fine. Shazam says the SSL plugins is the only subscription I have. Yeah, those are great too. I have those too. Those are great. If you like SSL, they make a really nice, not an extensive suite of plugins, but they make a fairly good suite of plugins, and every so often they're throwing a new one in there. It'll probably grow over time. And yeah, those are great. And if you have the UC1 or the UF8, those, especially the UC1, the controller, that's really cool with their plugins. SSL makes good plugins. I like their plugins. David says he may fully commit to UAD instead. I've had Universal Audio from the beginning. I have almost all their plugins. They make really good stuff. I still think they're pretty overpriced. Now, again, they're subscription-based now, I guess, and they're making all their stuff native now, and where you used to need the hardware. I still think you can buy their stuff and own it, and it doesn't need to be subscription. I think that's probably an either or, but who knows? That might be changing as well. But they make great stuff too. They do. They make really good stuff, but they're a little more on the pricey side. I think they're a little bit more expensive than other plugins. But I like the fact that now they're native and you don't need their hardware. That's pretty cool. And you don't need to worry about DSP and all of that. But they were if not the first, one of the first ones to have that technology, the DSP technology, where it used to run on a PCIe card inside of your computer. And back then they had the UAD1 and a UAD2, and you could only run, back then, maybe a handful of plugins in a session, and it would crap out because the computer technology wasn't there yet. But they were one of the first ones to do it. They were one of the first companies to make emulations of the classic gear. They were around long before there was Slate Digital and Plugin Alliance and FabFilter, and I don't know about Waves. Waves was probably an earlier adopter too, but even way back in the beginning of Waves, they were making all of the R-Comp series, the R series. They didn't make Abbey Road back then, and those things didn't exist back then. UAD was around from the beginning. And they make good stuff. And if you own a lot of their stuff, you got really good plugins too. Ernest Grant. Hey, Ernest, how are you? Have you thought of using Flock Audio as a digital patch bay setup? We talked about that last couple of weeks ago. Thought about it. I actually had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago. They reached out to me, wanted me to demo one of their units on this channel. And I said, well, I'm not going to strip down my studio to demo one of their units. I actually wanted to switch to the Flock Audio. But the problem is the amount of points that I need with a console. It would cost me about $25,000 to upgrade to the Flock Audio in order to get all the ins and outs and all the points with all the gear and the console. And it just doesn't make sense financially. And they weren't going to give me $25,000 worth of patch bays for some videos. Although we talked about it. I think the technology's great. I'm a little worried that if those patch bays go down, your whole studio's down. They haven't been around long enough yet. You don't see, at least I have never seen, a studio with a console and that much equipment using Flock Audio. Everybody uses the old school, telephone wire patch bays. And the reason why they do it is because there's no maintenance virtually. They don't go down. There's nothing to break. The only thing that stinks about it is over time, your cables can get a little scratchy. Your cables can go bad. It does look like a mess and like a pile of spaghetti wires. But they're simple. They're easy. They're low cost, but they're manual, right? And so the Flock Audio, I think, is a wonderful idea. It's a great technology, and I give the company a hell of a lot of credit for looking at a problem, a mess, and trying to make it so it brings it up to today's technology where you can save presets and audio hardware chains and move things around and not have a single cable. That's brilliant. But the problem is the technology, it's so expensive. A 96-point Switchcraft patch bay. Now, you could buy cheaper ones than Switchcraft, but Switchcraft and Bitree are the two studio standards. But a 96-point patch bay is $1,200. A 96-point patch bay for Flock Audio is about $5,000. So it's 5 times the cost. And when you get up to some of the larger systems, they make one that's 192 points. It's 13 grand. So I would need 2 of those. So I've thought about it. It's a great idea. We actually had a meeting, but it just doesn't make sense in this environment at that price. But if you're someone who doesn't have a console and you work all in the box and maybe you have, a handful of pieces or 8 or 10 pieces of gear and you don't need more than 32 or 64 points, it's a really cool, efficient product, for a few grand. But if you get into a console where now you need tons of I/O, it just becomes too expensive. But I like the idea. Shazam says that Dolby Atmos is like 8K TV. People barely have 4K TVs. Well, again, Dolby Atmos, again, it's newer technology. Apple is really big into it now. People will eventually have 8K TVs. Again, who knows? You do see some of the big time studios upgrading to that technology to be able to mix high-end records in a Dolby Atmos format. But I just wonder again, because, okay, you get an album or a CD or however the format's going to be, digital file of the Rolling Stones' next record. How does a consumer listen back to that? Don't you have to have a pretty high-end and a Dolby Atmos system with multiple speakers all over your room and the ceilings and everything else? I know they have some way that simulates it in Apple AirPods and stuff, but I listened to that, and I wasn't really impressed with that. And again, I'm sure over time the technology is going to get better, and maybe that's where we're going to go one day. But until the consumer can consume that format in a way that makes sense and is affordable, I don't see the point. Unless you're a real high-end audiophile aficionado, then that's a really cool thing. But I don't see it. Not anytime soon, but maybe eventually. Maybe eventually. But I don't see it anytime soon. Bobby says that I don't use hardware, but I push myself and to limit myself to about 30 plugins. Good man. Got that from watching your analog streams. Yeah. And I said that, right? I don't know if you have the hybrid mixing course, but when in the hybrid mixing course, I talk about that. I talk about how you can emulate this workflow with plugins, and I say just that. I say, go over to, we're going through all my hardware, write all the pieces down, go get your plugins, get yourself, 2 or 3 1176 plugins, try to emulate the hardware, and you get yourself, 15 plugins, 20 plugins, whatever you're going to use. Get yourself a channel strip of a console that you like, and just use that and get really good at that. And you're going to find that all these other plugins that you got, you really don't need. They're fun to use, right? But how many of you, honestly, that work with plugins or used to work with plugins, if now you're hardware, where you're working on a session and then you go, oh, okay, we got an acoustic guitar, but I got to put a compressor on it. And you open up your plugin browser and you're scrolling through 250 plugins to figure out what you want to use. We've all done that, and in the end, you need 12, 15 plugins. So that's great, Bobby. That's really smart. What you're going to find is your mixes are going to become more consistent, because if you're sticking to the same set of tools, you're going to develop a sound. The other thing you're going to find, and again, whether you're working with plugins, whether you're working with hardware, when you have a limited amount of tools, you're going to get very good at those tools, and you're going to figure out what they do well, what they don't do well. You're going to use them in situations that you didn't think they could be used in, and you're going to surprise yourself, and you are going to become a better engineer that way, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think that's great, Bobby. That's really, really good. Wooden Doors. Hey, Wooden Doors. How are you, my friend? Waves are not straightforward. Okay. We can mix in Dolby Atmos and Logic and Pro Tools using any headphones. Cool. Again, I don't, that's awesome. But again, I don't see the need to do that. Why do you need to do that? I mean, again, I'm not knocking. If you want to work in Dolby, work in it. I mean, that's really cool. Again, I don't know. I could be wrong. In a year, everything could be Dolby, and I could be completely wrong. But I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. And there's got to be something different. Again, and I don't know because I'm not experiencing it, but I'm just thinking out loud. Just, you know, we're having a conversation. If anybody can just mix in Dolby Atmos and Logic and Pro Tools using any set of headphones, and if it was that simple, then why are these big studios going out and spending 150 grand on putting all the speakers in, all the different pieces of gear that you need to time align all the speakers and everything? If it was as easy as doing it on a set of headphones, if that experience was the same and it was real, why would all these studios go through that huge amount of expense? Is it the same? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's that simple, but I don't know. I don't know. I think, and again, I could be wrong. Uncle Dave is not always right, that's for sure. I think Dolby Atmos is the new shiny thing in the room that everybody's talking about. Just like when the new shiny plugin comes out that everybody wants, or the new shiny piece of gear that comes out. That's the magic that's going to make all your production sound better than anything else out there. And 90% of that is all nonsense. It's all marketing hype. It all comes down to your skills as an engineer. And that's it. No matter what tools you're using. And so I think it's the new shiny thing that everybody's looking at, and I think it's cool. But I just don't, I'm not convinced that it's going to, is it going to fade off? I don't know. What do I know? Hey, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Let's see. Not only in the AirPod Max at Dolby website, they mention that you can use it with any headphones. Cool. The thing is that Apple has its own version of immersive audio. Yeah. And I use that in my AirPods, my AirPod Pros, and I'm not impressed with it. Because I have Apple Music, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. And I put my AirPod Pros in, my new AirPods, and I went to where I listened, I think, to the Motley Crue record that was all done in this new technology. And does it really sound any different? I don't really think it does. Not in those AirPods, it doesn't. Not to me, it doesn't. Or maybe it's slightly different again. I didn't listen to it and went, wow, I feel like I'm in the middle of the music. It doesn't sound like that to me at all. Not even close. And I don't know how it can, because you're only using left and right. Again, there must be something in there that, again, simulates. So that's way different than if you were listening in a room with speakers all around you. That's a different experience. I didn't get that sensation with the Apple stuff, but again, maybe it's not that good. I went, yeah, it doesn't sound really any different to me than it did before. But maybe that's just Apple's isn't that good. I don't know. But who knows? In a year or two, I could be completely wrong. You guys will all say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Everyone's doing it. You could be right. Nicholas York. Hey, Nicholas, how are you? The Bluey or the Audioscape Rev A, completely different. They don't even sound remotely close to each other. Not even close. As a matter of fact, we did a video, Dave and I, we compared the Audioscape Rev A to the Waves CLA, because we were actually trying to do a video trying to compare those two. They don't even sound close. They're not even close. They're two different compressors, in my opinion. So the difference is between those two units, and I use them all the time, so I can tell you with firsthand experience what they sound like in the room, side by side. The Rev A sounds more like a traditional Blue Stripe does, in that it sounds like an 1176, obviously, and it has a more open, brighter top end. It's not super aggressive. It's not as warm as like the Rev D or the Rev F. The Bluey, on the other hand, sounds like that, but it has a lot of aggression to it, and it gets aggressive very easily. You want to kind of really destroy, really grit something up, that Bluey does something that the 76A doesn't do. And the way I understand it, again, from what I've read, and I don't know if it's true, that particular Bluey is modeled on one of the 4 Chris Ordalgi Blue Stripes, his number 1. And there's actually, It's been heavily modded, I guess, over the years because he has an older one and it's been maintained. And actually, there's something quote unquote wrong with it. The way it was modded or whatever was done to it over the years, and it gives it a sound that none of his other compressors have. And so that's why it sounds that way. It doesn't sound really anything like the 76A. So if you're asking if I only had to use one, I think the Rev A by Audioscape is more versatile in that you can use it almost anywhere and it's appropriate. The Bluey, to me, even on a very subtle setting, can be too aggressive on a lot of different things. So if you don't want that aggressive thing, you want more of a transparent thing, I guess maybe that's the word, then I would say the 76A. I find I use the 76A more, and the Bluey's just used for very specific things. But they don't sound even remotely close to the same. And that's the truth. Okay, let's see. You guys are all real talkative. This is really cool. Thanks for joining me tonight. I've been here a little over an hour. This is great. All right, let's see. Who else? Braxel's here. I cannot see that we need all these plugins. Which is the best place to go for plugins? I trust your advice. I do not want to waste a bunch of money. Are the Studio One plugins any good? Okay, so here's what I tell people. If you have Studio One, let's say you have no third-party plugins and you're using all stock plugins in Studio One or whatever DAW you're using. If you're using Studio One does have those analog plugin emulations. There's a couple that come for free when you have Studio One Professional. I believe it's the LA2A, the 1176, and the Pultec. There might even be another one, but those are the ones I remember. Then you can also purchase through the PreSonus shop a whole package of compressors, EQs, and those are pretty good. They're not my favorites of the bunch, but they're good enough. They're good enough. Now, if you're not using Studio One and you said to me, I'm going into third-party plugins for the first time, Dave, what would you buy? I tell every single student this, and I've been saying it for years. The Slate Digital All Access Pass or the Everything Bundle, whatever the hell they call it, for $15 or $18 a month to get all their plugins. To me, out of all the ones that are out there, and I own them all, so I know, I have real-world experience, to me, they don't make a bad plugin. They have all the different plugins that you would need if you're in the analog kind of emulating that analog workflow, and they all sound good, and they don't make a bad plugin in the bunch. And so if I was only picking one, that would be the one I would tell people to go to. That's not to say the other ones aren't any good. They all are good, but that's, to me, bang for buck, all their plugins are usable, and I use all of them. Whereas if I had the Plugin Alliance bundle, there's only a handful of those plugins that I would use. There's a lot of them in there. They have like a mega bundle or whatever to get a ton of plugins. 80% of them I personally would never use. Whereas Slate Digital, I use most of them. So that's what I tell people. But if you have Studio One Professional and you just want to stick with your Studio One plugins, yes. And again, I say this on the other channel all the time because most of the people that I teach at Home Recording Made Easy are more in the beginning stages. They're not at this level of mixing yet. If you can't get a good sounding, well balanced, clean mix with just your stock plugins, then you need to work on your skills, training and otherwise, because you can get a very, very, very good mix that sounds really great with just stock plugins if you know what you're doing. If the recordings are good, right? You got to have good tracks. That I don't care if you're using plugins or hardware. And if you can do that. Once you get to that point and you go, okay, I got really good mixes. They're well balanced. They're clean. They sound really good. But I want that extra thing. I want that kind of more analog kind of feel. Then that's when you start moving into your third-party plugins. And if you know how to use them, you can achieve that. You can achieve that. So that's what I would tell you. I hope that answers your question. Hope that answers your question. I think I answered your question. Bluey or Audioscape Rev A? I've answered it. I know you keep asking. Maybe you didn't hear me. I just talked about it for 5 minutes. I would get the Audioscape Rev A. How do you make sure that we do not have any ground loops in your studio? Well, I don't have any ground loops in mine, thank God. Well, a couple of things. A lot of it comes down to cable management, and there's a mountain full of cables in this room. I mean, anyone that has analog stuff like this, you already know what that entails, right? And so, a couple of things you can do. Number one, I try to make sure that all my power cables are running in as far away as I can from all my signal cables. Use high quality cables. That's the other thing. A lot of people get into this, and I did this too. We talked about this on this channel on some of the videos from a year and a half ago where, and some of it had to do with component shortages with stuff during the pandemic, that I had some not high-end cables in here, and we had some problems, and I eventually just went all Mogami Gold on all the main cables. And yeah, it costs a fortune. But you know what? I turn the system on, it's dead silent. There isn't a buzz, a hiss, a hum, nothing. And there is miles worth of cables in here. So it's the way you run the cables, trying to keep the power away from signal cables. Also making sure, and you can't see them, but I have five Furman power conditioners, clean power conditioners, right? So everything is plugged into that. The power is distributed evenly. In this particular studio, I have my a separate electrical panel, so it's all running off. It's not running on the electrical panel for the rest of my home, so that helps. So it's all about that. It starts at the wall, making sure you have clean power coming in, making sure you have good power conditioners, and making sure you do good cable management, and then you use good quality cables. And if you do that, you will drastically reduce any kind of ground loops, hum, noise, that kind of stuff. And there's none here. Absolutely none. And I think that it's all kind of built up to that. You know what I mean? You say your whole studio runs on the Flock. Okay, we talked about the Flock. I'm not going to read your last comment. Easy with the language, my friend. But I get it. Flock's a good technology. It's too expensive for me. Let's see. Please press the button for Dave. Oh, yeah, press the like button. You're happy I'm here. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy that I'm able to help in any way I can. That's why I'm here. I'm here having fun. I try to share whatever knowledge I have, and hopefully it helps some of you. And if it does, great, man. Nicholas says that he loves the Flocks, but simplicity, but hates the price point. It's exactly what I said. I think it's a wonderful technology. I would love to have them, but I can't spend the money that it would cost for me to do it here. But I love the product. I love the product. Marcus says he would buy plugins only on discount. I picked up some SSL plugins for $20 to $50 instead of $200. Wait for the sales. There are discounts from time to time on every plugin. Yeah, especially around the Black Friday, right between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that there's always plugin deals, always. But like I said, they're all going to the subscription now. So, you know. Ken says, hey Ken, how are you, my friend? Reaper gives everything you would need, and I've heard, Reaper gives you everything you would need, I have heard. I don't use Reaper, but my good friend David S.J., he does. He loves it. I've never used it. It's not one of the big 3 DAWs, but people that use it like it. I know he's told me that he loves the customization of it, but he also said that you have to do a lot of, to get it set up the way you want it to set up, from what he's told me. There's a lot of tweaking and customization that you need to do. That it's not as plug and play as something like Studio One. But he's been using it for many years and he loves it. But I know he has told me that it's, sometimes you got to do a lot of workarounds. It's not, but he likes it. So the people that have it like it, and he comes out with great productions in Reaper. So like I've said, you can do it in any DAW. Man says that, I don't know why this is so small. That doesn't matter. Okay, I'll read it in case you guys can't read it on the screen. It's a little small. But he says, my issue ignoring Atmos, Apple requires now to upload music, and they are the king of music streaming with the highest pay. Spotify is most likely going to require Atmos. I hope this gets reversed. Okay. Yeah, you know more. You know more about it than me, my friend. Oh, no problem, Nicholas. Yeah, no, it's in the chat. I got your question. I thought maybe you stepped away and you didn't hear me answer about the Audioscape stuff. No worries, my friend. You're fine. Have you considered trying Stam Audio or Warm Audio? If so, I have Stam Audio 76. Oh, cool. I will lend it to you. Oh, that's really kind of you. To shoot out if you're interested. I know of Stam Audio. The only reason why I haven't really considered them is because I really don't need anything by them, to be honest. But I heard they make good stuff. I know some folks that have a couple of their pieces and they like them. Warm Audio, I'm not a big fan of. But again, I know there's some people here tonight, and I have students that have their stuff that love it. I've used a couple of their pieces in the past, and I sent them all back. I didn't think they were any good. But this is going back several years now, to be fair. I've compared, we're going back a few years now. I've compared their 76 compressor, their LA2A compressor, and their Pultex to plugins, and to me, there was really no difference. However, I've compared these pieces to plugins, and there's no comparison. So I don't know what that means. The other thing that I've heard about Warm Audio, although I did not experience this, but I know people that have, is they have spotty quality issues. But I've also heard those have been resolved. So I'm not going to say Warm Audio isn't any good because I haven't used them recently. But I will say the pieces that I did try in the past, I wasn't impressed with. And so I don't own any of their stuff. That's just the truth. But again, I know people that use it, that love it. So if you have a piece that works for you and you love the sound of it, right on, man. If it works for you, it works for you. But I appreciate you offering to put up the Stam. I really don't need it. Even if I loved it, Nicholas, I don't have any room for it. I wouldn't buy it. I mean, I have 4 1176s and I love them and they sound fantastic. I don't know that I need a 5th 76. And again, I would just say, how much different is one going to sound over the other? Maybe slightly, but they're not going to be that much different, I wouldn't think. But I do appreciate it. I think Stam does make a Fairchild, though. Real expensive, though. Would love that. But now Heritage Audio also makes one, too. But they're expensive. They're real expensive. So I don't think I'm going to be getting one of those anytime soon. The Pick. Hey, the Pick. Do you like preamps? Oops, let me try to make you a little bigger here. Do you like your preamps with EQ, or do you prefer separate units? Well, I don't have any pre's. All my pre's are on my console. I don't know that it matters, to be honest. I mean, I know you could buy a preamp, like a 500 preamp and an EQ separate. You could buy, a preamp with an EQ in it. I don't know that it matters. I guess it would depend on the piece. I don't have a preference one way or the other, personally. Let's see, I see a pair of new racks on the top left corner of the rack. What are those? Oh, you're coming in late. You weren't here early. So there's only one, actually. That's the Radial Workhorse, and that's the little 3-space unit because I'm going to be pulling my Neve, my AMS Neve out of my 500 rack to put up there because I need to make some space for some new stuff. So that's what that is. Hey, Paul. Hello, Dave. I'm having an issue with Pipeline XT. I just went to a Claret and Octopre. Cool. I believe it's a Focusrite control. Yeah, I know Focusrite has that app, right, that sits between the interface and your DAW, and I don't have any experience with it. But that could be your issue. I've never used, I shouldn't say that. There was a time, again, we're going back 6, 8, 9 years, I don't know, a long time. I had a couple of Focusrite interfaces. I forget which ones they were. They were 8 channels. They were, I had 2 of them daisy chained together with a light pipe, I think, when I was all in the box. and I don't know if it was called Focusrite Control, but it was a Focusrite app kind of thing, and I hated it. But we're going back a long time. I just couldn't get used to it, and I eventually sold them, and I went back to, I think at that time, Universal Audio. So yeah, I don't know if that's what's causing you the issue, Paul. My guess is it could be, but because I don't know that software, that's a Focusrite question, I think. Braxel says, I bought a new RME, UFX3. I'm waiting for my Redco cable order coming tomorrow. Cool. So I can put my snakes together. Nice. You're building your own cables. Yeah, they are cheaper than when you buy them. Yeah. If you're into making cables, you can normally buy them and make them cheaper than you can buy them already pre-done. That's true. I wasn't into making cables, and at the time, when I was installing all of this, again, if you guys haven't gone back and seen all the videos of us putting in this console, and there must be 2 or 3 videos of us wiring this thing and rewiring it and rewiring it again. There was so much work to be done that I just bought them all. And yeah, they certainly way expensive. No doubt about that. Way more than I anticipated originally. Music good. Have you ever tried the Neve MBC? No, I have not. I haven't. But if it's Neve, I'm sure it's awesome. I don't know anything by Neve that isn't any good. The pick, Blackline or Warm Audio? Well, as I just said, I'm not a Warm Audio fan. But again, I haven't used their stuff in a long time. Blackline Audio, the only thing I have by them is the Bluey, and I like it. They have a reputation, Blackline, of making really high-end gear. So if without having a lot of experience with either one of them, if I had to pick one over the other, or if I was going to go down the road of one or the other, I would probably go Blackline. Yeah. Jimmy says, I have Warm Audio mic pre's and a couple of their mics and think they're good value for the money. Yep. I've had their mic pre's for 4 years now with 0 issue. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Jimmy. I know you were one of the ones that I know has a lot of their stuff and you have no problems and you love it. And that's great. That's awesome. I don't have enough experience with them, but, and I never had a quality issue with the stuff that I did have. And one of the reasons is I didn't have it long enough to have an issue. But I also know people that have Warm Audio that have had to have their stuff fixed a couple of times. And so, yeah. But if you haven't had any problem and you like the way they sound, great. I've never tried their microphones, so I know they're making microphones. And again, I'm sure there's tons of YouTube videos on them saying how good they are. And they may be fantastic. I don't know. But yeah, you know, this is what I tell people, especially if, well, you guys all do this anyway, but again, buy gear, buy it from a good reputable place like Sweetwater. And if you have a problem, they're going to take care of you, even if the manufacturer won't. And not that Warm Audio wouldn't. I'm just saying, whoever the manufacturer is. If you have a Sweetwater thing, you have a 2-year warranty on everything, and if it lasts 2 years, it's probably going to last you a lifetime. If something's going to happen in electronics, typically it's going to happen in the first 30 days, 90 days, usually. If it's a faulty component or faulty craftsmanship, that's usually the way it works. So you'll be fine with Sweetwater. That's all I would say. Just, you know, if you're going to buy something that you're not sure of, just buy it from a place that you know you're going to get support. And then that's all you really got to worry about. But who knows? Warm Audio may be fantastic now. I don't know. I have no reason to buy any of their stuff, and I have no reason to try any of their stuff at this point, because I have everything that I need. But maybe they're great. But I know, well, again, I'm only going, this is all secondhand information. I don't like to say stuff isn't any good unless I've actually used it. I can only tell you what I've heard. So you got to take it all with a grain of salt. Nicholas says he completely agrees with Warm Audio. They're just hit or miss. That's what I've heard. You have Stamchild. Oh, you do. So you have the Fairchild. What did that cost you? 10 grand? 8 grand? How is that? Now that's something, if you wanted to loan me, I'd try it out. No, I'm only kidding. I wouldn't expect you to send me that. But yeah, I've only seen a few people that actually demoed that, and they say it's great. I wish I had the bread to have one of those. That would be cool to have, a Fairchild. That would be a nice piece to have. Congratulations on that. Let's see. You were referring to the 2 racks that look like channel strips. What 2 racks? What are you talking about? 2 racks that look like channel strips? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, are you talking about the things up top? If you're talking about those 2 units on the very, very top, one of them you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but the lights are working now. Those are, if this is what you, maybe that's what you're talking about. That has nothing to do with this, my mixing system. Those are the DBX 286S. It's for my lavalier. It's for my voiceover mic. It's a little cheap, but effective for voiceover and podcasting and stuff. Has a de-esser in it, a compressor in it, a little low and high EQ preamp on it, and I'm running my wireless lavalier into the streaming software. So that's what that is. And I have 2 of them because I have 2 wireless packs. So when I have somebody here like Dave and we're doing videos together, he has a wireless mic, I have a wireless mic. We're both going through the same type of processing, if that's what you mean. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that's what you're asking me. Soon you'll have racks up to the ceiling. No, I don't think so. I'm telling you, there's a couple of pieces that are getting sold for new stuff, but I'm not going to have more racks, and we're not going up. We're really not, because I don't really need anything else. I got everything I need. And the stuff I'm doing, I'm really happy with the progress, and the clients are really happy. We're really dialing things in, and I don't want to muddy up the waters by buying more stuff. The stuff I have sounds great. And so, yeah, no, I don't think we're going to the ceiling. Super chat, $2. Hey, Wooden Doors, thank you. Can't put EQ after the console bus compressor, big deal. Can't put an EQ. Yeah, on this one you can't. So the way it's one of the things I don't like about this particular console is that on the master bus is an insert point. But the insert point is always before the bus compressor in the console. So if you can go EQ, whatever you want to do outside the console, when it comes back in, it hits the bus compressor last. So the EQ is before the compressor. The stereo widener is before the compressor. I wish I could reverse the order. You can't do it in this console. And so, is it a big deal? Not really. It's not that big of a deal. If you really wanted to put an EQ after the compressor, I just wouldn't use the bus compressor. I would use another compressor instead and just shut that off. And then you can, in the patch bay, you can reverse the order. You know what I mean? Is it a big deal? Not really. Again, no, again, the clients are happy and that's all that matters. So, it's not a big deal. I wish I could reverse it, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not a showstopper, really, by any means. Let's see. What are your thoughts on API hardware, such as the 2500 Plus, the 550B, the 527s, the 565? Have you tried any of these? The only, I have an API 5500 stereo EQ. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. At one point in my 500 rack, I'd like to get a pair of maybe 560 EQs, the graphic EQs. I would love to try an API 2500 bus compressor. In general, API stuff, in my experience, is unbelievable. Love it. Pricey, but I like it. But the 5500 stereo EQ, I use it all the time and I love it. I'd like to get some 560s. Like I said, maybe a pair of those at one point. Maybe down the road, I'd love to try an API 2500 on the master bus. I'd love to try it, but again, they're over $3,000. Again, I really don't need that. I use the SSL bus compressor for most of my stuff, but the API also can be used on the drum bus. There's other places you can use it, certainly. I'd love to try it, but yeah. But API is awesome stuff, man. It's got a great aggressive sound, and I love that about API. So yeah. Okay, Jimmy's Talking to Morgan about the Claret 4 Pre. Man Network says, I think warm audio preamps are great. I've got 3 tracking rooms full of them. Oh, awesome. And another 20 here at home. All right. Audioscape is no doubt better. Oh, it is. Okay, the warm audio on the compressors and EQs, but the modern warm audio is all right. Okay, well, here's a guy that's got tons of them, and he can speak from firsthand experience. He's got 3 tracking rooms with 20 of them, and he likes them. So he would know better than me. He's saying Audioscape is better on the EQs and the compressors. Again, I haven't compared them side by side. But yeah. I mean, if you got, 3 tracking rooms and you got full of warm audio pre's and you like them and don't have any problems with them, then there you go. There you go. Braxel says he has a Black Lion audio power conditioner, and it hummed and had cheap lights, and I had to send it back immediately. I will not buy their stuff after that. Oh, okay, cool. I don't have any of their stuff except for the Black Lion Audio Blue, and I haven't had an issue with that. So yeah, I use all Furman power conditioners, and I've never had a problem with those. The pick says, when looking at preamps between Warm Audio and Heritage Audio, I decided to go with Heritage. Okay. I've never used any Heritage stuff, but again, I've been told they make really good stuff. They make a lot of the Neves kind of replica stuff. So yeah, I've never, the only piece of Heritage Audio I've used is when I was working on the box. I used to have their monitor controller, the Ram 2000, and I really like that. Really high quality piece of gear. It's the only piece of gear by them I owned, and I really liked it. So if I was in the market, I would try their stuff again just because I had a good experience there. How do you feel about buying used gear? It depends on what it is and how much. Depends on what it is and how much. I bought used pieces before, and I didn't have any issues, like my 2 DBX 160s that were modded by Revive Audio. Those were bought on Reverb used. They work fine. But most of the stuff that one of my distressors, that was used, no problems. Both of my Aphexes were used, no problem. So it depends on what it is. Depends on what it is. I will always look at Reverb first to see if I can get a decent deal. But what I find with a lot of the good quality high-end stuff, people are trying to sell it for almost what you can buy it for new. And so depending on how much I'm spending, if that's the case, I'll spend the extra $100 or $200 and buy it new so I get a warranty, but it depends on what it is. Like I was recently on Reverb looking for maybe another 500 rack, and I found one, a Neve, which I would love to have, but he was asking, I think $150 less than what I could buy it for brand new from Sweetwater. I'm like, for $150, if I'm spending $1,000 anyway, or I'm spending, if I'm going to spend $900 or I'm going to spend $1,050, I'm going to spend $1,050 and get it brand new. Now, if they were selling that thing for $650, $700, and you could save $300 or $350, then I would probably buy it used. So it depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. I'm not against used gear, but used gear, you know how it is. Used gear, you don't have a warranty. Oh, I bought my Neve 542s used. So, now that I'm thinking about it, I'd say half of the stuff out here in these racks were used, and I never had an issue. But again, I got good deals. I'm not going to pay almost new prices for used gear, Nicholas says Warm Audio does make good microphones. Not all, but the 67, the CX12, and the 47 FET. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure they're great. Hey, Nashville Licks. Barry. Hey, Uncle Dave, I bought the SSL Big 6. Nice. I'm amazed. More than I was expecting. Cool. I've never used one, but people ask me a lot about the SSL Big 6 because I have this. So they think, well, you have this. Have you ever tried the Big 6? I have not. It is a pretty pricey mixer, but like I said, I would be shocked if they put SSL doesn't make crappy stuff. So I'm sure it's probably really good. That's a really nice desktop mixer. Good for you, man. I'm glad you're happy with it. You have the Warm Audio 47 Junior. I think it's good. But hey, what do I know? Hey, man, as long as it sounds good to you, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's made by Warm Audio or, you know, again, you know, who else makes really great microphones at a great price is the Roswell Audio. We have some of those coming up on the channel soon. They make really good, affordable mics that sound fantastic. Now, I've never put them in the room and sat next to a real Neumann and compared them A/B. So, but again, they probably sound slightly different because just like with compressors, all microphones sound a little different, especially the vintage ones. But the Roswell Audio stuff sounds great. Sounds great for the price. I was like, wow, sounds really good. Dave, what are some of your favorite large diaphragm condenser microphones? I don't have a ton of them. I was just talking earlier that in doing some of my drum recording videos that are coming up, which you can see here. See that? There's my drum kit. There's an overhead shot of it. I started experimenting with the Slate. I know people are going to think it's crazy. With the Slate Digital virtual microphone system, the large diaphragm condenser mic, the ML1. And then after recording it flat, bringing it into Studio One and playing with all the different mic models, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it, how good it sounded. I was like, wow. Wow. The video comes out at Home Recording Made Easy in about 3 weeks, where I'm recording drums both without music and then to a backing track. And it blend with one microphone. It sounds fantastic. That I was blown away. And again, you know, does their U87 mic model sound like a real U87? I don't know. I just know it sounds great. So I don't, when I was a tracking studio many years ago, I had a U87, which was great. I had AKGs, 414s. I had inexpensive Rode NT1As and NT2s. And so, but I never had a really deep mic blocker. Again, what I found about large diaphragm condenser microphones, in my experience, was the more expensive ones had a much more smooth top end. Or some of the more affordable ones, the top end would get kind of brittle, and depending on the vocal, could work or not work. But I'll tell you what, man, if you're on a budget, I gotta tell you, and I gotta do more experimenting. But I gotta tell you, that Slate shit is for the money. I couldn't believe it. I was really surprised. If I was gonna be a recording house again and I was gonna record people, the first thing I would try would be that Slate ML1. That would be the first thing I would try. And then I would use all the different mic models to find the sound I was looking for. And I would have a studio full of those. And then maybe, you know, your standard, you know, SM57s and stuff like that. But I was blown away by that. Couldn't believe it. For the money, I couldn't believe it. Nicholas says, if I want to review any of his stuff, you'll send it over. That's very kind, man. Yeah, no, you don't need to do that. I mean, it would be great. I don't know where you're at, what part of the country you're in. To ship stuff like that back and forth, I'd be afraid it would get damaged. But yeah, maybe, I mean, you know, you can reach out to me through the website offline. You know, maybe we can do something. It would be great. I mean, I really appreciate it. You don't have to do that, but that would be cool of you to do. I'd be willing to test anything against anything if I had the gear. Blake Matthew says, hey Blake, how are you? Warm mics I've had QC issues with, but when used, I got them, so I can't really blame Warm. Oh, you bought them used. Okay. Warm actually sent me a new tube out for one of them, even for free, even though he got it used. Okay, well, that's cool. So Warm Audio stood behind their product. That's really cool. You had some QC ads. See, again, I you know, that's the pattern of what I've always heard about Warm Audio. Some of the stuff is great. The QC stuff is kind of spotty. Some people says it gotten better. Some people own stuff they never have any issues. But they have a reputation of kind of spotty quality. Not that other companies don't, but they have that reputation. So, but I'm glad to hear that they stood behind their product and they were able to help you out. That's the sign of a good company. So I don't know. I don't know. Man says he has the Heritage Audio Successor and the HA604. Cool. You have multiples of both. Man, you must have a nice studio, brother. And they've been among my favorite compressors. Yes, they're both DioBridge. Yeah. Yep. That's great, man. You got a lot of gear, it sounds like. Good for you, my friend. Nashville Licks says the SSL Big 6 checks all the boxes. Great. Great sound. You were surprised how good the preamps were for your use. The A to D is solid and you don't miss your Apollos. Awesome. Anyone on the fence, I would highly recommend. Yeah, I would be shocked if somebody, I haven't heard a bad word about those SSL desktop mixers. The only thing that people complain about is the price because they're not cheap. I think you got to get in at $3 or $4 grand, right? They're not cheap. But outside of that criticism, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about them. So I would assume that it's really good. You said you had an Audience 2802, and that was great. Used it for tracking and summing the preamps. Okay, cool. And then he says that he's on the fence about the Fusion after watching the shootout with the plugins. They're close. The plugins are close. I think I said in that video, out of all the plug-in to hardware comparisons that we've ever done, that I've ever done, and again, I've only done limited amounts of them, as you can see by the channel, those were the closest hardware to plugins that I found. Those were the closest. But at that time, and I know it's different now, but at that time, they were $200 or $250 a plugin, and that to me is absurd for those plugins. Because I would buy the hardware before I'd spend that much money on the plugin. But I know that's not the case now. They went on sale. You can buy them for 30 bucks, for 40 bucks. And I remember saying in that video, it's funny sometimes when you do videos, people, but they're writing comments before they even listen to what I say in the video. Because I said in that video, and I said it at Home Recording Made Easy when I reviewed the plugins in those videos, I said at the time, if you could get them for less than 100 bucks each, they're worth it. But at 250 bucks or whatever they were at the time, I said, that's crazy. I wouldn't pay that much money. But I know I said that at least 4 times in one of those videos, and yet I still got a bunch of people in comments calling me this, that, and the other thing because you could buy them for less money. You know, people don't listen. But yes, the plugins, if you can get them at a reasonable price, or if you buy their subscription, if you're into their plugin subscription, you get all those plugins as part of that subscription, I think it's really good. It is really close to the hardware. It's not exactly the same. It's not, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Pretty close. See, Braxel says he has a distressor, and if I had to get a second one, do they have to be a matched pair to link them correctly? That's preferred, but not necessarily. Mine are not a matched pair, and I've linked them before and they worked. You have to be a little bit more tweakity on them to get them exactly right. So in a perfect world, you'd want to get a matched pair. That's probably if you were going to link them and keep them set up like that, I would recommend they were a matched pair, but they don't absolutely have to be, but that's probably the preferred way to do it. You could still link them, but you probably would, you already said you have one. So if you were buying a second one, because they've been making distressors since about 1996. So if you bought some that were in the same year production or something like that, or if you're really not sure and you really want a matched pair, sell yours and then go out and sell it, get some money, and then go buy a matched pair. But mine are not matched, and I've linked them and they're okay. Hey James, how are you, my friend? If the Origins had compressors on each channel, would you still get the external compressors? Yes, to a degree. If I had 32 dynamics in here, yeah, because I had 11 of the SSL dynamics in a 500 rack. My original thought was, again, because I'm learning, that because this didn't have dynamics in it, I was going to get 32, 500 racks filled with them so I can have one permanently inserted on each channel, just like it was on the board. And what I found was those compressors I didn't use on as many elements as I thought. I don't really like them on drums at all, personally. So if they were in the desk, I probably wouldn't use them. But if it already had it in the desk, I probably wouldn't have as many compressors as I have, but I would still have some, because the compressors all sound different and they don't all sound the same or work the same on everything, if that makes any sense. So yeah, but it doesn't have all the dynamics. But I still have 4 of those 11. I kept 2 pairs of them because I do use them from time to time, but not on everything. Not on everything. Nashville Licks. By the way, I highly recommend Dave's Mixing Your Music. He did a fantastic job. Thanks, Barry. And it sounded great, just the way I wanted and hoped it would sound. Awesome. Yes, if you want to know about my mixing services, go to mixingmusicanalog.com. It's right there. I'm busy. I got 2 albums I'm mixing this year. I've already done a bunch of singles for people. And so, yeah, it's I've really dialed this in, and the sound is just, it's really coming together. I mean, people are really happy with the sound, and I'm getting very little as far as revisions in notes. So yeah, thanks, Barry, for the endorsement. And if anybody wants to have your music mix, most of the cats here are all studio guys, but if you're watching this on the replay and you're an artist and maybe you do great mixing in the box and you want to know what it would sound like if you mixed it analog so you can compare it to what you've done in the box, hit me up. I can mix a track for you, and you can compare it. And you can see what you like. You know, sometimes you may find you like what's in the box, what you're doing just as good. It's good enough for you or whatever, great. Or in a couple of cases, I've had people do that, and next thing you know, they're hiring me to mix their record because they're like, the sound off this thing is what they want, and they can't achieve that in the box. Exactly the same. So yeah. So if you're interested in that, you can always hit me up, and I'd be glad to work with you. Do you do orchestra masterings? Nope, I haven't. Nope. Not that style of music doesn't really come across my console. Dave, are the stock Cubase 12 plugins better than Studio One? No, they're the same. I mean, again, I say that as a general statement. Are there a couple of plugins here and there that might be better one over the other? Maybe. But there might be a couple, but then I could probably find a couple of Studio Ones that are better with Cubase. They're all the same. Pick the DAW that you feel most comfortable working in. Forget the plugins. Don't worry about them. Either one of the plugins in the tools and either one of those DAWs will do you more than what you need. They really will. It really comes down to the workflow and how you like to work, and the DAWs work a little different, although those 2 particular DAWs are very similar in the workflow. Unlike Pro Tools or Studio One, those are like 2 different animals. Or even Logic and Studio One, completely different. But Cubase and Studio One, very close. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried about the plugins. Don't make your DAW decision based on the plugins. Really don't. I think I would be recommending to you that you be making a mistake. Look at it from the workflow and which one do you feel most comfortable with. And if you can always demo, I think you can demo each one of those DAWs for a bit, but it takes time to really get comfortable with a DAW2, you know, and 30 days, if you've never used a DAW before, it could take you a little time to get your head wrapped around it if you're coming from a different DAW. But yeah, either one of those DAWs would be fine. I wouldn't worry about the plugins. What is your favorite thing about mixing? Well, the reason why I like mixing is I like taking raw recordings, good recordings by good artists. That's huge. People don't believe me when I say this, but it's true. It's been true since I started. I'd say about 25% of the work that's offered to me I turn down for a variety of reasons. Usually it's the musicianship and the quality of the recording. I don't mix crappy recordings. I've had people ask me a bunch of times, can you show us how to take crappy recordings and make them sound great? And the answer is absolutely not. There's no such thing, no matter what anybody tells you. you know, you could take certain things and fix certain things. I'm not saying there's nothing that can be done, but crappy recordings only sound like crappy recordings. It's hard. You're not going to polish a turd. So I don't do that. So so my favorite thing about mixing is taking great songs by great musicians that are recorded well and taking those raw things and making them sound finished like a record. Because even if the recording is really good and even if the musicianship is stellar, the raw recording to the finished product, big difference. And so I like taking that and sculpting that and making it sounds great. So when you listen to it, it's like, you know, the first stands up. That's what I like about it. I've always liked that. So that's my favorite thing. There's not one favorite thing I like about it. I like the whole process, but just taking something that's in its rawest form and making it sound awesome. And then working with a client and looking at the look on their, I mean, that's probably my favorite thing too, is, you know, when you have a client or an artist that's really happy, it is a good feeling. You feel proud. At least I do. I mean, you know, I've had times where I did a record last year for someone, a full album, and you know, they listened to a couple of the first couple of mixes they said they listened to them around in their car, and you know, it was a female artist, and she said she cried happily. Didn't cry like, oh my God, who did I hire? But she said that it sounded so good to her, it brought her to tears. And I you know, that was like, you know, that I was able to take something and invoke an emotion in somebody like that. That was like, wow, you know, that doesn't happen every time, obviously. But yeah, so it's really seeing the way, you know, or like if you watched my, if you haven't watched my video, I think it was last week on the follow-up video on the Trinoff, and we're going to be doing another one soon. I'm doing an interview with one of the engineers from the Trinoff. We're just trying to work out our schedule. He's getting ready for NAMM, but after NAMM. Anyway, if you watch that video, I actually read you an email of a mix I did for someone. I read you the email that he wrote me, and it was really talking about the Trinoff and the room correction, but really how happy he was. And so that's really my favorite thing. I like taking it and making it sound good, but I really like when the client is really happy. And when they write me an email like that and they're just like, wow, you know, that makes me feel good. Because, you know, like, as you know, and you guys all know if you're engineers or if you're musicians and you're, you know, guitar players or drummers or whatever, you know, it takes a lot of years to get good at being a musician, right? It takes a lot of years to become good at mixing or recording or whatever you're trying to do. And even though I'm still, you know, nowhere, you know, I'm still learning. I'll never be finished, right? I'm always feel like I'm getting better, or at least I try. So it's just, you feel a sense of accomplishment. And if you can make somebody happy like that, that's probably my favorite thing. So that's a long-winded answer, but hope that helps. Let's see. Michael Rogers. Hi, Michael. Have you ever considered getting a digital patch bay? Yes, we keep talking about... Whoops. Hold on. I don't want to ban you. I almost banned you, Michael, by mistake. Sorry. Have you ever considered a digital patch bay? Yeah, we've been talking about it. We talked about it tonight. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. People asked me this, and I keep saying yes. I actually met with Flock Audio, the company. They reached out to me. Said, Uncle Dave, we want you to demo our products on your channel. Here's the problem with Flock. In order for me to have a Flock Audio system that will accommodate my console and all my gear, it would cost me about $25,000. And it's just way too much money compared to $5,000 worth of manual patch bays. So as much as I love the technology and I know it's a game changer, and I think the company's brilliant that they came up with this thing, but I also worry about if that thing ever goes down, your whole studio's down, and that thing hasn't been around long enough. But again, people that have them, like you, Michael, love them. But it just not cost prohibitive. It's just not. And so I talked to Flock. You know, I wasn't expecting them to send me $25,000 worth of patch bays. I mean, I'm a little, you know, a little bit more, on top of it than that. We tried, is there any way we work out a deal? I mean, I don't know, we could do something. What's your artist price? I mean, I was willing to spend some money, but nowhere near that kind of money. And so it just didn't work out. So if I didn't have such a big requirement for IO, then yeah, I've considered it. But like I said earlier, you don't see any, at least I've never seen. I'm sure there's guys out there. I've yet to see anyone with a full inline console with this much equipment that's all on Flock. I haven't seen that. And I got to think most of the reason is because of the cost. I'm sure there's guys out there that have it, but I looked on YouTube and stuff, and you don't see a lot of people. You see a lot of people that are in the box. Mostly they don't have a console, and they have, you know, some racks of gear, and, you know, maybe they need 32 points or 64 points. That makes sense. But I don't see anybody with, you know, 280 points with the Flock audio. At least I haven't. So I think it's an awesome technology. I wish it would become more affordable because I would consider it, but it's just out of my price range. Braxel says he loves his his Audioscape 260 VU. It's awesome. I love it too, man. It's a great thing. Santiago, hey, how are you? Any chance you'll be getting the SPL Big soon? Just got it. It's amazing. No, I won't be getting one, but Nashville Licks here tonight says he has one and loves it. No. I have no reason to have one. There was a time early on when I first bought my console, I was talking to SSL about doing some demos on their smaller desktop mixers because most people are not in the market to spend 50 or 60 grand on a full console. And we talked about it a little bit, and then they lost interest. They really don't have an interest in working with Uncle Dave, which I don't know why. I wasn't looking for free. You know, I didn't say, give me a free mixer. You know, I don't know what we were going to do. I think we were going to try to work out a deal where, I don't know. I wasn't expecting them to give me a bunch of free stuff. That wasn't how the conversation went. It was more about trying to bring the information to compare, like the Origin, to a smaller format, like the XL or the Big 12 or whatever the hell they call it. But they just didn't want to do it. And I don't understand why, because I don't know. I think I'm one of the only YouTube channels that really talks about, especially their consoles. Nobody really talks about their stuff. But no, they weren't interested. So yes, no, I'm not going to go buy one. And if they ever wanted to send me one to do a test, I would certainly hook it up and test it and tell you what I think and tell you how the quality is, maybe from the build quality compared to the Origin, and maybe we do a comparison in that respect. It's not the same console, but it's a really miniature version of this kind of a feel. So I would kind of tell you, but yeah, no. Unfortunately. Music Good says that the Neve 88M interface would be a great gear to review here. Yeah, again, I don't have any need for that. Again, if Neve wants to, you know, again, believe me, between Sweetwater and some of these companies, I'm willing to work with them to bring reviews and stuff to you guys, because a lot of you guys ask me about a lot of gear because you trust what I tell you that's going to be honest, and I have no dog in the fight. You know, I'm not here selling you gear. I don't care if you buy any of this stuff or not. As a matter of fact, I don't tell you to go out and buy any of this stuff. I just tell you my experience. And so a lot of you look for my opinion. The problem is I don't have access to all this gear. But if a company wanted to send me something and they wanted me to try it, depending on what it was, and if it was good quality like Neve or SSL or API or, you know, the stuff that I know is going to be good stuff, regardless, and it's just a matter of taste. Do you like the sound of it, this, that, or the other thing? I would be willing to do it and bring that experience to you, but no one's been banging down my door. I mean, a couple of companies do, but not those companies, unfortunately. Oh, thank you, James, for the super chat. Very nice of you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, my friend. That helps a lot, and I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Every time I come on here without scheduling it, we have a love fest, and it's great. And if I'm helping you, this is great. And I just love talking to you guys anyway. Michael says, how hot are the mixes that you send your clients? Well, the finished mixes, I give them two different things. One, I'll give them usually at around a -6 dB if they're going to send it off to mastering or whatever their mastering engineer requires. You know, every project's a little different. And then I'll also always send them something that's around a -0.5, -1. I'll throw a limiter on it to get it up to volume so they can hear what a final product would sound like. That's usually, so I'm usually giving them something that's not so hot if they're going to master it, and then I'll give them something that is, you know, pretty juiced up. But a lot of that is worked out with the client beforehand. You know, what are their needs? If there's any special deliverables that they need on their end, I make sure they have all of that. But I'm not one, honestly, to, you know, I don't, my style is, and again, if a client requests this, I'll certainly give it to them, but my style is not to bring it up to smash it to, you know, negative 0.001 right before the edge of its life. I'm not into the whole loudness, the loudness wars thing. I try to mix a little bit more conservatively, negative, you know, half, negative 1 dB. That's still a pretty hot master, but it's not the loudest thing on the planet, but it really depends on the client. So I try to give them some options on whatever they need. The pic says, I think I learned something here today. Yes, mixing is not polishing turds. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not in my studio. You know, that's not to say you can't fix things. We do fix things, you know, tune a vocal, fix a little timing, but you know, 80% of, well, I don't know, 70% of a great sounding record is a great musician, great artist, great band, great recording. And that does not mean, by the way, that you have to record in a multi-million-dollar studio to get that kind of a recording. I mix lots of records. Most of the records that I mix for clients, they're recorded in home studios, project studios. Some will have some analog gear, a couple of preamps. Some are all in the box with their, you know, their $1,000 audio interface, their Universal Audio Apollo, their PreSonus whatever, Focusrite whatever. But the recordings are clean, the performances are good, and they have well-written songs. I mean, those things you need. And you can do that with a laptop and a $500 interface. You really, truly can. And then we can take it and we can make it sound like a finished professional product. But if the performance isn't there, if the quality of the recording isn't there, I really have no interest in working on that stuff. There's lots of guys out there that do, though. But I stay away from those kinds of projects as much as possible. And sometimes, you know, people think because of all this stuff that you can just run anything through it and it's going to fix everything. And that's just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. So yes, if you're recording yourself and mixing yourself, right, work on your recording, get it right at the source, and you'll have a much easier time mixing. I was thinking about buying a Telefunken for vocals. You think I should get it or something else? I don't know anything about the TF-51, but I know Telefunken makes high-end microphones. I don't know anyone that's ever owned a Telefunken and said it wasn't any good, but I've never tried that, so I don't know. Any thoughts on the AMS RMX versus the plugin? I've never used the plugin. You mean the reverb, right? The hardware is great, but honestly, my guess is, I've never tried it, so I don't know. But if I had to guess, my guess would be the plugin's probably really close because it's just a digital reverb. It's digital. So I got to think it's probably pretty close. But I haven't tried it. I've yet to find, well, the only other reverb that I own hardware is the Audioscape reverb, and that's an analog reverb, and it's a spring reverb. That's different. It's not a digital box. Aside from that one unit, I've yet to have but I haven't, again, I don't have a lot of experience with hardware reverbs, so I'm speaking a little out of school. Usually the plugins for me are just fine. The reverb plugins, the delay plugins are just fine. I use the Audioscape. Is something that you really don't feel, you really don't hear, excuse me, you feel it. It's very subtle in my mixes and it's on everything typically just to give it a sense of size. But anytime I'm going to use other reverbs and delays, I'll use them with plugins. But I've never owned like a Percasti or anything like that. And you know, a lot of big time studios have that and they say it just sounds better than anything else. And maybe it does. I've just never tried one. So the AMS Neve hardware is really cool and it sounds great, but my guess would be the plugin is probably not that far off, but I haven't compared them. Let's see, what other questions? Hello, Rod, how are you? James says, I know you love the Origin. How would you compare it to the 5088 versus the Origin? I'm looking at a 16 channel, but I want something that sounds great in any style of music. Well, the 5088's Neve, I never used it, but again, Neve doesn't make bad consoles. So let's see. You couldn't go wrong with a Neve, but they're different sounds. So it depends on what you're going for. And I don't know all the exact features of the 5088 compared to the Origin. The reason why I like the Origin is it's an inline console. The 5088 may be that too. It's very easy to use. The routing and the flexibility of what you want to do, mixing, recording, and all of that is almost limitless. You can almost do anything you want. And it has a lot of faders, which I wanted. I wanted 32 long faders, and this has 64 faders at Mixdown. I wanted to have all these faders. And the SSL sound I just kind of like. So what I would tell you is if you have the opportunity to go sit in front of both, you want to. I know that's not easy depending on where you live. If you live within driving distance of a Vintage King or Sweetwater, you can go do just that. And you'd have to listen for yourself, but they're completely different. Either one of those things I'm sure would be fantastic. Most of the stuff that's been mixed in the last 45 years, from the early 70s or the mid 70s, you know, the old saying is, and this is not completely true across the board, but people say they record on a Neve and they mix on an SSL. Most of the mixes that you hear are on SSLs. That doesn't mean you don't get great mixes on Neves. Of course you can. Of course you can. So it's just a matter of sound. Either one I think you would be really happy with. But when you look at consoles, you got to look at the features of what you're really looking for, because they vastly range in price point depending on features. How many channels? Are you going to record, or are you just going to mix? How many inputs do you need? How many faders do you need? How many EQs do you need? Do you need dynamics on the board? Is automation and recall something that's super important to you? This desk doesn't have either one of those. And then what's your budget? Because they range in price. And we've talked about consoles here before, and I'm sure you already know this, James. For people who don't know, people have said to me from the beginning, oh my God, you bought this Origin. I can't believe you spent all that money. It doesn't have dynamics on every channel. It doesn't have recall. It doesn't have flying faders automation. What a waste of money. And those are people that don't really understand the console market. In order to get a console that has 24 faders or more, with 24 or more EQs, preamps, automation, flying faders, and recall, you are well over $100,000, and I don't care what brand you buy, API, Neve, or SSL. There is no console with all those features for less than $100,000. It doesn't exist. So if you have a budget of $150,000, yeah, you could buy a console with flying faders, recall, automation, all that stuff. But at the time, this console was just under $50,000. At $50,000, there is no console with all those features. So it really depends, James, on the features and your budget. And really what's important to you. Make sure that what your features, what you need, really is realistic to what you think you're going to spend. Because that's the thing that most people that I've talked to get wrong, is they think they can get all the features I just talked about, but they don't realize what it really costs. But in the end, I think you would be happy with either one of those consoles, but they are totally different sounds. So if you can go demo one, that would be the way to do it. Ken says, hi Ken, I paid $4K once to record some original songs, loved the sound of the studio, but when I got it back, Radio Ready industry standard CD, I didn't like it. Okay. So, okay, but you paid $4K to record some original songs. Where was it mixed? At the same studio? Who mixed it? And what didn't you like about it? Because you could have had a wonderful recording in a great studio, and then you didn't have a mixing engineer that gave you what you wanted. If I'm understanding your your comment correctly. Braxel says Mixbus TV has Flock. Yes, but he doesn't have a console. You're talking about David. I like David. I love his channel. I watch all his videos. I like him. He doesn't have a console, so he has Flock. And I don't think he has more than, I know he doesn't have more than 100 points. But he's a good guy, good mixing engineer. But he does everything in the box. He has hardware, I mean, but he doesn't have a console. That's why he doesn't need as nearly as many points as I have. Not even close. Sorry, but the SPL Big is a stereo expander, 500 series, 2-slot chassis. Yeah, okay. Sorry, the SPL, yeah, okay, it is a stereo expander and a 500 chassis. Yeah. Are you asking me a question? I have it. Yeah, you're right. I don't know if that's a question. Yeah, it is. And I love it. And there's a review coming on it soon. You're right. You are absolutely right, my friend. Braxel says, do you use Melodyne? Yes, very lightly and at times. The stuff, well, yeah, if something needs to be tuned, that's what I'll use. But I don't, again, part of my mixing rate is I don't take on projects that need heavy vocal tuning. That's all done at production. So most of the stuff that I work with, the vocals have already been addressed in that way. But if there's something out of tune, a note here or there, yeah, Melodyne would be the thing to use. Michael says, do you ever do Zoom/Audio Mover sessions with your clients? I have felt that keeps revisions down and organized. Yeah, I don't use Audio Movers, but I'm gonna switch to them. I was using the Mixup app, but Audio Movers you can do with video conferencing and stuff. I'm gonna move to that at one point. I'd like to try it. But yeah, right now I just use the Mixup app, so they can, but that's not video, that's just audio, where they can hear the mix, and then if they want to change at a certain point, it syncs up to the DAW, so that works really good. So yeah, but those are great tools to use. I'd like to try Audio Movers. And there's another one out there that I'd really like to try. It's not Audio Movers. What is it called? Session Wire? Is that the one, Michael? There's another one out there that I'd like to try, or Session something. I don't know if it's Session Wire, where they really did what Audio Movers did, but then they add the video piece to it. I might try that. Hi, Marcus. Yeah, we spent about 40 minutes talking about Waves early in the broadcast. Yes, they went subscription. As I said, you could go back and watch the replay. As I said, I think they're all going to go subscription. I don't know why if people are really upset about it. Every other company's doing it. Everyone's going to do it. You're not going to be able to at one point buy a perpetual license. Everybody's going to be that way. So if you have their plugins already, you get to keep them. You can still use them. But I guess if you don't have the subscription because you've already bought their plugins from the past, you just won't get free updates. Totally fine. But if you want all the updates and all the revisions and all that stuff, you have to be on a subscription. I'm not really surprised, nor am I really angry about it. I've been saying it for years. They're all going to do this. So get used to it. Get used to it. Oh, Michael says it is Session Wire. Yeah, Session Wire. I'd like to try that. Because right now I'm just using Mixup, which is similar to Audio Movers. And that works fine for me. It works fine. Again, because I already do, my whole process and the way I work with clients is we're already doing like kind of pre-production or pre-mixing Zoom calls and conference calls and stuff. So I'm fortunate that I have a pretty robust system where I don't get a lot of revisions anyway. I do a mix, 2 revisions. My mixing rate comes with 3 revisions. I've never gone above 3 revisions, never had to. And that's because I do a lot of preparation at the beginning with the client, so I can try to reduce that as much as possible. But yeah, those kinds of apps like Audio Movers and stuff are really great tools for sure. Thanks, Dave. Nice to hang with you. Thanks, Michael. You're doing a great job with your vlogs. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thanks for joining, man. I really appreciate it. James says, I can't find the Quantum 4848 anywhere. Oh, fingers crossed PreSonus to bring it back in NAMM this year. I need it. Yeah, you know, when I first switched to the 4848s, man, I'll tell you, PreSonus, sometimes they don't give me enough credit. I know that you could buy those things everywhere until I did that video shooting them out against the Apollos, and all of a sudden you couldn't find them anywhere used. They were gone. I think people were just buying them up. I don't know if they're coming back with another one. They might. It's a good unit. I have no problems with mine. No problems with the conversion, the converters, everything sounds good. So yeah, hopefully they'll come back and they'll do it. But I don't have any insider information on that. I haven't talked to anybody over there in quite some time. So I don't know. We're still streaming? Okay, we're still streaming. This is good. Just checking the stream to make sure it's still working. All right, man. We've been on here quite a while. Does anyone have anything else? I mean, thank you so much again for hanging out with me. I promise we're going to get to the point where we're going to do some demonstrations and stuff. I gotta schedule it. I got to get through some of these other videos that I'm doing. I'm working around the clock here, trust me. And there's lots of videos, like I said earlier. You can go back and watch the beginning of the stream. All the videos that have already been done, they're already scheduled for a lot of the gear in the racks, a lot of the reviews that I haven't done, they're all coming up. There's probably 8-9 weeks worth of videos already done that are coming. There will be some drum recording videos on the SSL coming in the next, I don't know, probably, well, they'll be recorded in the next few weeks. They probably won't come out on the channel for a couple of months, but they are coming. So we're just going to keep cranking along and, yeah, just trying to help you guys in any way I can. That's really what I'm here for, to try to help you guys, to give you guys any information and share my experience. And if I can help you in any way, that's great. That's why I'm here. So if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel and you watch the videos, please subscribe. I know it's like 70% of the people that watch the videos on this channel are not subscribed, which I think is pretty common for YouTubers, but that blows me away. So if you happen to be watching this, either live or if you're watching the replay, if you're not subscribed, do me a favor, subscribe, because it really does help. It really helps when companies want me to review gear and get gear and give you information. Well, a lot of these companies, the reason why they won't talk to little old Uncle Dave is the YouTube channel doesn't have enough subscribers yet. We're still a new channel. We've only been around about 18 months. But you know, they're going to go to the Warren Hewitts, and they're going to go to the Colt Caparoons of the world. They're not coming to me because I'm not a big enough channel. There's not enough of yous here. So if you're watching the videos and you're not subscribed, that's one of the metrics that they look at, is how many subscribers does he have? How many views do you get on the videos? We get a lot of views on our videos considering the amount of subscribers that we have. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It really does help. And that helps me get access to some more of these bigger companies to try to bring you guys information. Because that's the only way it's going to happen. It's the only way it's going to happen. So happy that you're here, Dave. I really enjoy what you do. Thank you, man. I so appreciate it. I have a lot of fun doing this. Believe me, this is really a labor of love. I mean, I love this stuff. And I love trying to help people. So if I'm helping you, this is great. Because of you, I see the importance of the 4848, need to switch from analog to it. Well, I wouldn't say that, James. Again, you know, we've talked about converters and stuff in the past, and people have their favorites, and it's totally cool. And you can find them at all different price points. I'm not convinced, at least I have not heard. And I always got to say that because, you know, a lot of YouTube channels claim a lot of things. And a lot of times, a lot of these YouTube channels that claim certain things, they don't even have experience with the thing that they're talking about. So I only like to tell you when I know something for sure, because I've actually used it versus what I've heard. I want to be very clear. I've only compared converters on a few different units, and I've yet to hear a difference between any of them. Me personally, although there's people that'll say they hear a big difference. Okay, I'll believe that if that's what they say. I've never used Antelope stuff. I've never used Apogee stuff. I've never used Burl stuff. I know they have great reputations. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about any of those brands, but I've never used them. Will any one of those sound any better than my Quantums? Maybe. I don't believe so, but I could be wrong. Again, if one of these companies want to send, and I've reached out to Orion, Antelope Orion. I reached out to them. I reached out to Apogee. I even reached out to Burl at one time and said, hey, would you send me a demo unit? I'll send it back to you. You don't have to pay me for the video. I'll send it back. You don't have to give me the thing. Let's compare it. They're not interested. And you want to know why I think they're not interested? Because I think, when you're just talking about converters and sound quality now, because they all have a little bit different features, I think even these companies know there's not that big of a difference, if there's any. So they don't want me to compare their $3,000 unit to a $1,500 unit to say it sounds the same. Or I would think that it would sound the same. So I don't know. But I would be happy to do it, and I would be honest, and I would share, just like with the Universal Audio Apollo, I gave you guys the audio files and said, put them in your studio. You tell me if you hear a difference. When we did the Universal Audio versus the Quantums. And it was about a 50-50 split. 50% of you said you couldn't hear a difference at all. 50% of you swear you could hear a difference even on your iPhone, which is nonsense to me, but that's what people would say. I've listened to those things dozens of times. I couldn't hear a difference. I sent them to professional audio engineers that have really good ears. They couldn't hear a difference. People in the comment section, some people said they heard it just by holding up their iPhone to their ear. So I don't know. But I would be happy to do it if some company wanted to send me something. I would love to try it, and I would be honest about it. But my guess is they're probably not all that much different. But I don't know. I don't know. Santiago says that he sent PreSonus an email and said they're discontinued. They are. Again, I don't know if they're coming out with a new one. They may not be. They may not be. You got to remember, PreSonus is not in the high-priced audio market. They've made pro audio gear before, and all that stuff has been discontinued. They used to make a wonderful preamp called the ADL. Very high-end preamp, discontinued. Quantums, discontinued. Their market is more entry-level beginner stuff. That's where they make their most money. Their $99 audio interface is the highest selling product that they have. Not by a little, by miles. That's where they make their money. They're not making money on things like Quantums. Not enough people will buy them. That's not the PreSonus market for the most part, which I think is terrible because they do make the stuff that they do make in the higher end market is good quality stuff, but it probably doesn't make business sense for them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't replace it, which would be a shame. So if mine ever crapped the bed, I'd have to go buy something else. And I would find something else that I'm sure would be just fine. But the other brand that's in that price bracket that I hear is really good, again, I hear it from a reliable source, but I've never used it, is the Motu stuff. Charlie over at Ultimate Studios Inc. loves the Motu stuff. That's about the same price point as the Quantum. And probably the same quality. And if Charlie says it's good, I would be willing to bet it's good, but I've never tried it. So if you're looking for something in that Quantum 4848 price bracket, you can try the Motu stuff. They make good stuff, from what I'm told. Braxel says he's still debating on PreSonus. Just pick one. Flip a coin. Flip a coin. The pig says, people lie. I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? Or Jimmy says, just switch to Logic Pro, the best DAW. He loves Logic. Logic's awesome. Nothing wrong with Logic either. Logic's just as good as all of them. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. Braxel, you won't pick the wrong one. Whatever one you pick, just learn it, right? Seriously. And don't listen to anybody. Stay off of YouTube, except for this channel, of course. Stay off of YouTube, listen to everyone's reviews and everybody's opinions. They're all the same. They are. It's all about workflow. So whatever one you decide, Cubase Studio One, either one, buy it. Don't think twice about it, and just learn it. Learn it inside and out. And once you learn it inside and out, you'll say, I love this thing. Why would I go get something else? It doesn't matter which one you get. It really doesn't. So I don't think you'll pick the wrong one. But if you're brand new to both of them, the only reason why I recommend Studio One is I think you have more training resources to help you. If you're new, that's the only reason. Not because I think it's better than Cubase necessarily. It's just that I'm more comfortable with it. So I'm telling you Studio One, and I know there's more training resources around it. But I'm not telling you that Cubase is not a great DAW, because it is. I just am not as familiar with it. That's all. So just pick one and move on and make music. That's all that matters. The pic says, buy the cheapest gear and take your spouse out for a nice dinner. There you go. Happy wife, happy life. I just took my wife out twice in the last 5 days for 2 nice dinners. Cost me a fortune. That's for sure. Any Lewitt mic fans? I've never used their stuff, but Lewitt mic actually reached out to me too, wanted me to send me some microphones. But honestly, I don't do enough recording. I don't really do any recording here. I'm doing the drum stuff for now, but I'm not a recording studio, so I have no reason to have Lewitt mics. I don't record guitar cabinets and bass cabinets. I do everything direct. And so I didn't really want to work with them, only because I have no real reason to use their gear. If I'm not going to use their gear in my studio and I have no use for it, then I wouldn't do it. But again, there's lots of videos on YouTube about Lewitt, and a lot of people like the Lewitt stuff, but I've never used it. Hey, Brian Hall's here. You're a bit late. You're 2 hours late. That's okay. You can go back and watch the replay. There you go, Jimmy. Jimmy, you have to take that wife out, boy, with all the gear you're buying. You better take that wife out. You don't take that wife out, and you have Sweetwater boxes showing up. The house, not good. Not good. Keep the wife happy. You could buy more microphones, right? That's what they say. So anyway, yeah, so let me say, based on the damn fence for weeks, these 2 dogs are on sale. Poor Braxel. He's not going to be able to sleep tonight. He's worried about his DAW. Flip a coin. That's all you got to do. Flip a coin. Flip a coin. All right, so we're going to head out of here because it's been over 2 hours. And I'm going to go get something to eat. But I want to thank you so much again. I'm glad. I love hanging out with you guys like this. It's really good, you know? We don't even schedule them. I just show up and you guys show up and we talk about a bunch of stuff. Again, stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. And also, if you're not subscribed to Home Recording Made Easy, go do that, because that's where you're going to see some of the first drum recording videos. You're going to see that over there. And then once we start recording on the SSL and using hardware, it'll be over here. But yeah, definitely subscribe to both channels. Check out the videos. Lots of videos coming. And in a couple of weeks, we'll get back on here and we'll do this again. Okay? So anyhow, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I really do appreciate your support. It means a lot. Trust me. I'm one of the smallest channels out there when it comes to all this stuff, and so I really do appreciate everyone supporting what I do here and passing the word around. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys probably in a couple of weeks. Okay? All right, guys. See you later.